Chapter 1990. Of course, Yun Zhongjuan hurriedly admitted, not daring to doubt the authenticity of Dustless's words. If he angered this temperamental bastard, he would really be in big trouble. Dong Huang Tai was a good example. He was the real master of the Yinyang family. But what happened in the end? Dustless turned him into a stray dog. Xing Hun, who had already died, and others who had offended Dustless, all ended up more miserable than the last. But, narrowing his eyes, Yun Zhongjuan looked at Dustless with a strange expression and asked, "Sect Master, you said that you will give me the immortal medicine. No, the immortal blood tonight, right? Is that true?" "That's right." Dustless nodded and asked, "Do you have any other questions?" Yun Zhongjuan was rendered speechless by Dustless's words. On the surface, he just smiled embarrassedly, but in his heart, he was extremely speechless. The elusive mirage hasn't set sail yet. Let's see how you will give me the immortal blood tonight. Sect Master, I'll take my leave. It was rare for him to talk nonsense with Dustless. Yun Zhongjuan bowed and retreated. Being in the same space as this temperamental guy made Yun Zhongjuan feel stuffy in his chest and very uncomfortable all over his body. Go. Dustless closed his eyes again and breathed evenly. It seemed that he had fallen asleep. Humph, let's see what you will do if you can't take out the immortal blood tonight. Then, you can't blame me. The moment he turned his head, Yun Zhongjuan heaved a sigh of relief. If Dustless couldn't solve the problem of the immortal blood, it wouldn't be his problem if he couldn't refine the immortal elixir. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, it was evening. I hope you won't disappoint me. In the transparent container, there was more than 1 liter of bright red blood. The color was bright and fresh, as if it had just been released from a living body. It was still a little warm. On Dustless's arm, there was a large red wound, and there was a sharp knife on the table. It was obvious that the owner of the blood was him. Although Dustless was not an immortal, there was no doubt that his strength was definitely not weaker than the so-called immortals. Furthermore, Dustless himself was a 10-tailed beast. In addition, he had also devoured the Spirit King. He had long evolved to an unprecedented level. Even if an immortal came, Dustless had the confidence to kill him. What's more, to a certain extent, the 10-tailed beast was the sacred tree, and the sacred tree was a treasure that contained immortal qi. It was not a big deal to give some blood to Yun Zhongjuan. He could just treat it as a last resort. Therefore, Dustless gave his blood to Yun Zhongjuan as a primer for refining the elixir of immortality. If it didn't work, Dustless would leave this world. Go and call Yun Zhongjuan over. Glancing at the soldiers of the Qin kingdom outside the hall, Dustless put away the dagger. At the same time, his broken wound began to slowly heal. The body of the 10-tailed beast was immortal, and any wound could be healed. Contributing 1 liter of blood was fatal to humans, but Dustless didn't feel it at all. The vitality of the 10-tailed beast was extremely tenacious. Tap, tap, tap. After a while, dull footsteps were heard. Dustless's vision also recovered from the blurred state, but the person he saw was not Yun Zhongjuan. Moon God. The person who came was the right guardian of the Yinyang school, Dharma Yueshan. The original left guardian, Xing Hun, had been killed by Dustless. Is there any good news? Was Lu Ji killed by the Zhu family, the hall master of the Shenongtang? Dustless's face outlined a faint smile and continued, "This is barely a good news. Sect Master, you guessed wrong this time." Moon God's words were shocking, and her face was solemn. At the same time, there was a hint of disappointment in her tone. The result was the opposite. The one who was annihilated was not Lu Ji, but the Zhu family. He was killed by Lu Ji and Xiaomeng. Ha! Dustless was stunned, which was rare for him. He asked in amazement, "You mean the Zhu family was annihilated by Xiaomeng and Lu Ji? Is the boy of the Zhu family a pig? Even if his body size is close to that of a fat pig, I remember that he is quite smart." Dustless was extremely depressed and asked again, "I asked you to inform him in advance. Why did the Zhu family still lose?" Ambushing the enemy, but being killed by the other party in the end. Was there anything more stupid than this? In fact, it's not like the Zhu family. The changes are really overwhelming. Moon God sighed and explained, "At first, the Zhu family did have the advantage, but Lu Ji secretly cultivated a lot of his own people, so the Shenongtang did not obey the Zhu family's order. Secondly, Situ Wanli of the Four Mountains Hall helped them, so the Zhu family was defeated and killed. In addition, there was a mysterious person who intervened in this matter. In short, the Zhu family lost. Although it was unexpected, it was inevitable. Mysterious person? Dustless frowned and asked, Moon God, are you trying to say that there is someone else who helped Lu Ji besides Zhang Liang and Xiaoming's Taoist sect? Why is that boy so lucky? There is indeed someone, and Sect Master is very familiar with this person. Moon God nodded and immediately said a name that Dustless had forgotten for a long time. Chu Nan Gong. Him. An old man with white hair and a beard suddenly appeared in Dustless's mind. He felt pressured when he walked, but it was undeniable that this guy was indeed extraordinary. Firstly, his strength was quite formidable, and secondly, his origin was also very mysterious. Although there were 3 households in Chu, Qin must be destroyed. This sentence was said by Chu Nangong, and later, his prophecy was right. The person who destroyed the Qin state was indeed Xiang Yu, the overlord of Western Chu. He was the first to obtain the Yellowstone Heavenly Book, but it was snatched by Dustless in the end. He also hated Dustless in his heart. Really, cats and dogs keep jumping out one after another. It's easier and faster to destroy this world with the infinite Tsukuyami. Dustless rubbed his head in distress. These words were just words to vent his complaints. He had a good relationship with Dustless, so naturally, it was impossible for him to destroy Fu Su's country. Moreover, Fu Su had helped him a lot. Dustless could not do such a cruel thing as biting the hand that fed him. Chapter 1991. There are too many ants to kill. After letting out a long sigh, Dustless suddenly understood the truth of a sentence. Water can carry a boat, but it can also capsize it. Rebels and traitors can never be killed. The world must be united when it is divided for a long time. This is the general trend of history, and it has never changed since ancient times. Human nature was evil. Wherever there were human activities, there would be darkness. This was especially true in feudal societies, where the hierarchy was strict. The gap between the rich and the poor was naturally huge. If they couldn't even support their wives and children, the poor at the bottom would definitely complain about the injustice of this society. Then, people with ulterior motives would sow discord, and these people would become traitors. Most of the feudal dynasties in history were destroyed because of this. But his eyes narrowed slightly, emitting a deadly demonic light. I have always advocated eliminating those who dare to resist my will. If one comes, I will kill one. If 2 come, I will kill both. Sect Master, you mean? Moon Goddess approached Dustless and asked for his opinion. She was keenly aware that Dustless had other intentions. Because their cheeks were so close to each other, and because Moon Goddess was quite close to Dustless, he could still smell the unique fragrance that was faintly discernible. Cough, cough, cough. Dustless deliberately put on a straight face and coughed twice awkwardly. He said seriously, we'll deal with whatever comes our way. We don't have to do anything. They will come to us soon. Sect Master, you have the right to decide. Moon Goddess nodded and immediately looked up. She suddenly realized that Dustless was staring at her. Moon Goddess subconsciously looked down, and her face instantly turned red. It turned out that the clothes on her chest were drooping because she had bowed just now, so Dustless had seen something he shouldn't have. By the way, I have something else to say. Seeing that Moon Goddess's face was a little ugly, Dustless quickly diverted the trouble and said, keep an eye on Yun Zhongjuan for me these days. Don't let that kid escape. Escape. Hearing this, the Moon Goddess was stunned for a moment. Then she asked in a daze, why do we need to see Yun Zhongjuan? Did he do something illegal? We can punish him publicly. There is no need to monitor him. That's not it. Dustless shook his head and said, in short, in the next few days, you have to pay close attention to his movements. Don't be careless. Do you hear me? Although the Moon Goddess did not understand what Dustless meant, she still nodded seriously. Yes, sect leader. Leave Yun Zhongjuan to me. As her voice faded, the Moon Goddess bowed slightly and gracefully retreated. Ancient people are good. He's so obedient, sensible, and doesn't like to ask too many questions. He only knows how to follow orders. It's hard to find a flaw in him. Dustless looked at Moon God's back with satisfaction. He had a faint smile on his face. Damned Yun Zhongjuan. I hope you won't do anything stupid. Watching the Moon Goddess leave, Dustless's eyes suddenly flashed with a blood-red demonic light. He did not have the slightest good impression or trust of Yun Zhongjuan. Once the elixir of immortality was completed, Yun Zhongjuan would die of old age. However, Dustless was worried that Yun Zhongjuan would run away in advance once the elixir of immortality was completed. Therefore, he sent the Moon Goddess to watch him secretly. If Yun Zhongjuan ran away quietly, it meant that the elixir of immortality was really completed. Then, he could just kill Yun Zhongjuan and take the elixir. There was no need to continue to be entangled with Yun Zhongjuan. Ha ha ha. Everyone, let's toast to our future success. In the stronghold of the Shenong Hall, the 8 immortals' table was filled with all kinds of wine and meat. A group of people gathered together, and everyone had a clear smile on their faces. Lu Jiwei, in particular, had finally become the hall master of the Shenong Hall after going through so many hardships. It's all thanks to everyone that I, Lu Ji, am where I am today. Let me toast you all with this bowl of wine. Lu Ji picked up a bowl of wine and clinked it with everyone, except for one person. Master Xiaomeng, we will be on the same side from now on. Why are you being so polite? When Lu Ji saw Xiaomeng sitting still and ignoring everyone's existence, his face stiffened slightly. Then he said with shame, I am also very sad about the death of Senior Xiaoyao Zi. But the dead have passed away. All I can promise is that his name will be passed down through the ages in the future. I don't care about the death of an old man, and I won't be moved. Xiaomeng glanced coldly at Lu Ji, then glanced at Zhang Liang, Han Xian, and the others. She warned, you've only agreed to a negligible victory, and you're so proud of yourselves for holding a celebration party? Maybe the next time you hold a party, you will be in prison or on the guillotine of the Qin Kingdom. As Xiaomeng's words fell, everyone's face changed slightly. She made them sound like children who were complacent and didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Lu Ji was helpless when he heard that. In fact, he also knew that it was just a small victory. It could even be said that he had sacrificed 800 of his own men to kill 1,000 of his enemies. But it was not a big deal to have an appropriate rush of joy. Ha ha ha. Chu Nangong's aged laughter came out of her mouth. She leaned on her walking stick and said, I know what you are worried about. But according to my understanding of Dustless, that guy is very lazy. He won't attack us for the time being. In the past, the Yellowstone Heavenly Book was taken away by Dustless openly. Since then, Chu Nangong and Dustless were like fire and water. Chapter 1992. According to the character of Dustless, he won't fight? Xiaomeng repeated in a low voice. Even though her expression didn't change much, the corners of her eyes were clearly twitching. She suddenly realized that she'd simply made the biggest mistake in her life by following this group of people on the same boat. What did she mean by Dustless wouldn't fight? Weren't they the ones who should fight? Since they chose to rebel and overthrow the Qin state, they should take the initiative to attack. Why did it become Dustless who wouldn't fight now? It was ridiculous. Cough, cough, cough. Chu Nangong seemed to see Xiaomeng's dissatisfaction and had to explain patiently. Xiaomeng, you also know the strength of Dustless. Although we have temporarily overthrown the Shenongtang, it is still difficult to deal with him. Humph. Hearing this, Xiaomeng just snorted disdainfully and turned away without saying anything. Sitting aside and looking at the vast scenery in the distant sky, she suddenly felt that the future was dark. Seeing this, everyone was stunned and looked at each other. How did the promised celebration turn out like this? At the same time, everyone looked at Lu Ji. After all, he was the mastermind of the banquet. At this moment, he was mercilessly slapped in the face by Xiaomeng, so he should be the most upset. But what was admirable was that Lu Ji was worthy of being the founding emperor of the Han dynasty. He just smiled disapprovingly and seemed to be quite open-minded. Master Xiaomeng's scolding is reasonable. I don't know what good plan you have to deal with Dustless, the evil thief. If this person is not killed, I will feel uneasy when I sleep. Lu Ji did not exaggerate at all. Every day when he dreamed and slept, he would occasionally meet Dustless's unpleasant and disgusting face. Everyone looked at each other and bowed their heads in shame. To be honest, they did not have a plan to deal with Dustless. Although they now controlled the Shenongtang and had the help of Situ Wanli's Four Mountains Hall, it was always a fool's dream to contend with Dustless. I suggest that we don't confront that guy for the time being. Zhang Liang pondered for a moment, then said frankly, actually, we don't have to do it ourselves to deal with him. Someone can help us deal with Dustless. Someone is helping. Hearing this, everyone was dumbfounded and stared at Zhang Liang in confusion. It seemed that Dustless had destroyed anti-Qin organizations like the School of Moism, the Confucian School, and the Quicksand. Who would dare to find trouble with Dustless? There are two people. Under the gazes of the crowd, Zhang Liang smiled mysteriously. A few days ago, when the Yinyang School attacked the farmer's village, they killed Tian Hu and annihilated Qiyu Hall. Other than that, even Senior Xiao Zi and Mr. Gunye were killed by the Yinyang School. Only I am safe and sound. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Liang couldn't help but feel a little proud. He knew that Dustless was here to kill him, but he couldn't find any trace of Zhang Liang even after searching for a long time. Where did Mr. Zhang Liang go? Han Xian and Lu Ji asked in confusion at the same time. The others also looked at Zhang Liang curiously. It was undeniable that Zhang Liang was indeed capable. Anyone that Dustless wanted to kill would die without a doubt. Only Zhang Liang had escaped misfortune. Ha ha ha! Zhang Liang laughed mysteriously and said something shocking. I went to the mirage. This. As soon as Zhang Liang finished speaking, even Xiao Meng, who was looking at the scenery outside the window, was surprised. She said in surprise, this Zhang Liang is really not simple. The Yinyang School of Moism is looking for him everywhere, but he secretly sneaked into the mirage and chose to do the opposite. No wonder the Yinyang School of Moism failed. The mirage is the Yinyang School of Moism's territory. What kind of fortuitous encounter did Mr. Zhang Liang have? Lu Ji and the others were interested. They put down the bowls and chopsticks in their hands. Xiao Meng also focused her attention on Zhang Liang. Judging from the strength that Dustless showed, I felt that it was impossible to kill him. At least, we don't have the confidence to kill him. So, I thought of other strategies. Although Zhang Liang was unwilling, he had to admit that the gap between his strength and Dustless's was too big. Could it be? Everyone's eyes lit up. As soon as Zhang Liang finished speaking, everyone looked at him with great joy. Mr. Zhang Liang, did you say that the Yinyang School of Moism is enough to kill Dustless? That's right. Zhang Liang nodded proudly and said with a confident smile, Yun Zhongjuan of the Yinyang School of Moism promised to poison Dustless. He will definitely be able to poison Dustless to death. As the saying went, it was easier to dodge a spear in the open than an arrow in the dark. The enemy was not scary. The scariest thing was often the pawns in the school. In this way, Dustless will definitely die. Chu Nangong felt comforted. He hated Dustless to death. First, Dustless snatched his Yellowstone Heavenly Book. Then, he killed Li Si. Chu Nangong was Li Si's right-hand man. If Li Si died, he would naturally be implicated and become a stray dog. The most terrible thing was that Li Si and Zhao Gao rebelled together. Chu Nangong, who used to be Li Si's right-hand man, was also affected. He had to flee for a long time to avoid the Qin army's heavy troops. After several twists and turns, Chu Nangong decided to rely on Lu Ji and the others. They had to deal with the Qin kingdom and Dustless together to have a chance of winning. Mr. Zhang Liang said that 2 people are enough to deal with Dustless. May I ask who the other person is? Everyone could not help but ask curiously, is he also a member of the Yinyang School of Moism? This person is more important than Yun Zhongjuan. A trace of coldness flashed across Zhang Liang's face. That fellow Wu Chen's contribution is too great. The Emperor's greatest taboo is to avoid shocking the Emperor. As long as we secretly instigate discord, we might be able to disintegrate their alliance. Chapter 1993. That's right. Dustless's contribution is too great. The 100 schools of thought were almost annihilated by him. He even destroyed Li Si and Zhao Gao. His contribution is enough to embarrass Fu Su. Lu Ji agreed wholeheartedly. In history, there were countless meritorious ministers who had died because of their contributions. In the end, it's still a scheme. Xiao Meng snorted in disdain. Although Zhang Liang's plan sounded good, it was still a little different from what Xiao Meng had in mind. The concept was even the opposite. All in all, Xiao Meng was somewhat disgusted by schemes. Although she knew that she was forced to do so, she was still disgusted by it. No matter what, let's do as Mr. Zhang Liang said. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, a few days had passed. In these few days, Dustless had been very bored. He walked around the elusive mirage. Although there were many beautiful women, to be honest, Dustless was an old monster who had lived for hundreds of years. Some of his desires had already faded. It's getting more and more boring. Dustless looked up at the sky and sighed. It had been a long time, and he was bored every day. Sect Master. A gentle voice came from the left side. Wu Chen turned his head and skimmed over. What he saw was the moon goddess who came in a hurry. Is Yun Zhongjuan done refining the immortality elixir? Dustless's eyes suddenly lit up. He asked with great anticipation, "That kid didn't run away? That's strange." Dustless touched his chin. He knew that Yun Zhongjuan hated him. It was just that he had not shown it. Dustless also pretended that he did not know anything. However, after the immortality elixir was successfully refined, he could run away. Would he continue to stay in the elusive mirage to seek death? I don't know the details, the moon goddess denied. Then, she said curiously, Yun Zhongjuan seems to have suddenly gone crazy. He has been laughing like an idiot for more than 2 hours. He hasn't stopped until now. Laughing like an idiot? Dustless was stunned. Then, he asked without hesitation, has that kid gone crazy from refining elixirs? Come with me to see what that old kid is up to. In the alchemy pavilion. Ha ha ha, success. Yun Zhongjuan's face was filled with ecstasy, and his eyeballs were about to pop out. He held the blood-red pill with trembling hands, as if he was looking at his lover. His affectionate gaze was even more affectionate than when he saw his own parents. Creak. When the heavy iron door was suddenly pushed open, a cold and vicious look flashed across Yun Zhongjuan's face. Being disturbed by someone had ignited the killing intent in his heart. Without my permission, which blind bastard. So it's Lord Sect Leader. The moment Yun Zhongjuan turned around and saw Dustless and Moon Goddess, he quickly squeezed out a smile. His resentment disappeared without a trace, and it was replaced with a flattering look. Lord Yun Zhongjuan, you look so happy. Could it be that the elixir of immortality has been completed? The sharp-eyed Dustless instantly caught sight of the blood-red pill in Yun Zhongjuan's hand. For some reason, his heart trembled violently. I can guarantee that this time, it's definitely a success. Yun Zhongjuan was extremely excited. Then, under Dustless's astonished gaze, he swallowed the pill in his hand. Then, something incredible happened. Even with Dustless's composure, he was stunned for a moment. The small amount of white hair near Yun Zhongjuan's ears suddenly regained its beautiful luster and turned into long, smooth black hair. His obviously old face also regained its youthfulness. He was in high spirits, and his eyes were as dazzling as black pearls. It's really done? Even Moon Goddess, who was usually as quiet as a green lotus, widened her eyes at this moment. Her small round mouth opened exaggeratedly, and she was quite surprised. Do you have more? Bring one over for me to try. Dustless couldn't wait to try the effect of the elixir of immortality to satisfy his curiosity. After all, this kind of legendary thing was rare. Lord Sect Leader, please. Yun Zhongjuan took out a few blood-red pills from the jade bottle and handed them to Dustless respectfully. Gulp. Dustless couldn't wait to swallow them into his lungs and carefully feel the changes in his stomach. It's really not simple. The pills melted as soon as they entered his mouth. A steady stream of medicinal efficacy instantly spread to his limbs and bones, nourishing his flesh, blood, cells, and other organs all over his body. Dustless's mentality suddenly changed. He felt that he was 10 years younger, and his body suddenly became much more relaxed. However, perhaps because he was a 10-tailed beast and was immortal, Dustless's feeling was not as deep and obvious as Yun Zhongjuan's. Good. Worthy of encouragement. Well done. Dustless patted Yun Zhongjuan's shoulder and gave him an encouraging look. Then, he snatched the emerald jade bottle from Yun Zhongjuan's hand without any hesitation. Why are there only a few pills? After pouring out all the pills, Dustless only had 3 or 4 pills. What was the use of them? He had many female confidants. How could he distribute these pills? Lord Sect Leader, please forgive me. I was in a hurry and could only refine a few pills. Yun Zhongjuan's face was full of self-blame, but he sneered in his heart. He thought to himself, do you think I'm an idiot? After I refine a few hundred pills for you, I'm afraid you'll kill me immediately. Yun Zhongjuan knew that Dustless hated him, but he didn't point it out now. The reason was that he was still useful now. Once he lost his value, he was sure that Dustless would immediately get rid of him. If he helped Dustless refine all the pills in one go, wouldn't he be courting death? Chapter 1994. What a cunning old man! When Dustless heard this, he glanced at Yun Zhongjuan and saw the flash of pride in his eyes. In a trance, he saw through Yun Zhongjuan's thoughts and thought to himself, this old man is very smart. Then you continue to work hard. Remember not to disappoint me. Dustless was surprisingly easy to talk to this time. He gave Yun Zhongjuan an encouraging look and then left with the moon god. It's not easy to be so considerate of me. Looking at Wuxia's departing figure, Yun Zhongjuan couldn't help but be dumbfounded. He subconsciously slapped himself. Slap. The intense pain from his arm made Yun Zhongjuan's expression change slightly. After realizing that he was not dreaming, he said in surprise, Dustless didn't threaten to cut me into pieces this time. It's a miracle. In the past, Dustless often threatened Yun Zhongjuan with his life. This time, he left without saying a word. In Yun Zhongjuan's eyes, he was exceptionally kind. I haven't forgotten how you bullied me in the past. Just wait and see. Yun Zhongjuan glared at Dustless's back with gloomy eyes and continued to refine pills. Sect Master. In the quiet corridor, the moon god followed Dustless's footsteps. What's the matter? Dustless stopped and stood with his hands behind his back. You want to ask me why I didn't put pressure on Yun Zhongjuan? He's obviously slacking off and brushing me off, right? That's right. The moon god nodded in agreement. Then she frowned and said, in addition, Yun Zhongjuan's whereabouts have been suspicious in recent days. He often goes to the Mirage to buy herbs personally. This is really strange. In the past, the people of the medicine shop were responsible for escorting the herbs to the Mirage. There must be a conspiracy behind this. In recent days, the moon god had been secretly watching Yun Zhongjuan. She knew some of his strange actions like the back of her hand. She always came into contact with strangers and exchanged glances with each other. That kid is probably a traitor. He must have colluded with other forces. Staring at the falling cherry blossoms in the courtyard, Dustless calmly analyzed, Yun Zhongjuan hates me. It's just that he and I tacitly didn't point it out. The most likely culprit is the group of people from the farm family. How dare he? The moon goddess glared at Yun Zhongjuan and said coldly, the Yinyang school gave him everything. Since Yun Zhongjuan dared to betray us, he must hand over everything he has learned. Hearing that, Dustless looked at Moon God with shock. He asked, you want to disable him? It's still early. Take it slow. There's an 80% chance that they want to kill me. No matter what kind of conspiracy it was, there was only one thing in the end. It came for Dustless. As long as I'm dead, those clowns will have nothing to worry about. Why were Zhang Liang and the others hiding like rats? It was not that they were afraid of the cavalry of the Qin state or Fusu, but they were afraid of the Yinyang school. As long as Dustless fell, Zhang Liang and the other rebels would definitely take advantage of the situation to rebel. Does the hierarch intend to stretch out his neck and accept the punishment? The moon goddess stared at the gray eyes. They were like dead seawater. She couldn't see through them. Torture? What a joke. Who in this world dares to torture me? I just had a flash of inspiration and thought of a good idea. Since they want me to die, I'll just die. If I'm dead, those people will have nothing to worry about. Dustless smiled sinisterly and said generously, I'm afraid that Yun Zhongjuan will find the right opportunity to plot against me. In that case, I'll let him kill me once. A person only has one life. The moon goddess had to remind him cautiously. You said that a person only has one life. It seems that I'm an exception. Dustless shrugged and gave an answer that confused the moon goddess. Could the 10-tailed beast be killed? Perhaps it would be destroyed by a super-powerful master, But at least the current Yun Zhongjuan was far from that level. Time flew. Half a month passed in a flash. Sect Master. As soon as the sun rose from the east, Yun Zhongjuan rushed over. His face was red with excitement, and he was holding a big jade bottle that was as big as a human brain. You finally completed it. Dustless's eyes lit up. He was overjoyed, but he sneered in his heart. You finally can't wait to feed me poison. There was no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. In the past half a month, the moon goddess had been watching Yun Zhongjuan's every move. This guy deliberately put a lot of poison in the elixir of immortality, planning to poison Dustless to death. The moon goddess acted according to Dustless's plan and pretended that nothing had happened. She kept silent about everything. Sect Master, please try it. This is the elixir of immortality that I recently refined. Its effect is 10 times stronger than the previous elixir of immortality, Yun Zhongjuan promised. Sect Master, you can try it. If there's a problem, I'm willing to bet my life. 10 times stronger? It's 10 times stronger than arsenic. Yun Zhongjuan is such a scoundrel. Wu Chen curled his lips in disdain and swallowed the poison decisively. Only with Wu Chen's death would the rats hiding behind the scenes no longer have any scruples. That was why they chose to mobilize all of their forces to help them fulfill their wishes. They would die once and temporarily fake their deaths to deceive Yun Zhongjuan. When Zhang Liang and the others rebelled, they would be revived with full health to destroy them. Ha 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 ha. Seeing Dustless swallow the poison, Yun Zhongjuan suddenly let out a sharp and gloomy laugh. Dustless was very cooperative. His face turned pale in an instant, and he deliberately pretended to be in extreme pain. A few seconds later, he spat out a mouthful of blood in an exaggerated manner. Chapter 1995. Ha 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 ha. Yun Zhongjuan laughed heartily. When he saw Dustless's twisted and painful face, Yun Zhongjuan felt especially good. It was the most beautiful scene he had ever seen in his life. I've finally gotten my revenge. When Yun Zhongjuan recalled the miserable years when he was bullied by Dustless, he almost burst into tears. He sighed and said to himself, I've suffered so much resentment for so long. Now, I've finally gotten it back. Ha ha ha. Everyone was in high spirits when they were faced with happy events. Naturally, Yun Zhongjuan was the same. Due to the grievances he had suffered for so many years, he was several times more high-spirited than ordinary people. He almost started dancing. Yun Zhongjuan, you old B*****starred. How dare you betray me? What did you feed me? When he saw Yun Zhongjuan's smug face, Dustless felt strange. He did not know what brand of poison Yun Zhongjuan had fed him. His stomach kept rumbling. What made Dustless speechless was that he seemed to have eaten something bad. This poison is not bad. I can't believe it's making me sick. When Dustless sensed the abnormality in his body, he could not help but admire Yun Zhongjuan. After all, he was a proper Ten-Tails. His physique had long evolved to the realm of superhumans. However, Yun Zhongjuan's poison could make him sick. He was not a simple person. Humph. When Yun Zhongjuan saw the pain on Dustless's face, he snorted proudly. This is my secret poison. It's dozens of times stronger than ordinary poisons. You're the only one who has this honor. I still have something to do. Goodbye. Without even looking at Wu Chen, Yun Zhongjuan left in a carefree manner. Wait. Have you successfully refined my elixir of immortality? I'm not talking about 1 or 2 elixirs. I'm talking about the 500 to 600 elixirs that I mentioned before. Dustless continued to pretend to be in pain. He broke out in cold sweat, and his face darkened. It seemed that he did not have long to live. How greedy. You're still thinking about immortality in your current state? Dream on. Yun Zhongjuan snorted disdainfully and said loudly, I've refined 1,000 elixirs of immortality. Dustless, thanks to the immortal blood you got, there's a lot of it. You won't have a chance to enjoy the elixirs of immortality. Glancing at Dustless grimly, Yun Zhongjuan roared, I'm going to meet with Zhang Liang and the others now. When the time comes, we will all rebel and overthrow the Qin dynasty, and I will become the new master of the school of Yin Yang. Moon God, Great Master Ming, Young Master Ming, and that concubine Yen, you will all die. Kiki, you don't have to worry. You won't die for now. 6 hours later, you will slowly die. Now be tortured by the fear of death. Ha 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 ha. Leaving behind a wild smile, Yun Zhongjuan disappeared from sight. That son of a bitch is finally gone. I'm going to kill him. When he comes back, I'm going to chop him into pieces. Is that AF** king laxative or poison? Sensing that Yun Zhongjuan's aura had disappeared, Dustless ran to the outhouse while cursing. In fact, as Yun Zhongjuan had said just now, he had given Dustless poison. But because Dustless's physique was too strong, the effect of the poison was greatly reduced. Instead, it caused Dustless to have a stomachache. What a useless quack! About 10 minutes later, Dustless, who had washed his hands, came out of the outhouse with a gloomy face. Moon God and the others were already waiting for Dustless in the main hall. How is it? Did that idiot Yun Zhongjuan go to find the people of the School of Agriculture? Dustless glanced at Moon God and asked, that old man can't be easily bypassed. I think so. Moon God nodded and then said worriedly, what if Yun Zhongjuan doesn't come back? I remember that he also took away the elixirs of immortality. No, no, no. Dustless shook his finger and sneered. That traitorous old man will definitely come back. He probably took the elixir of immortality and gave it to Lu Ji. His purpose is probably to curry favor with him. Everyone wanted to live forever and never grow old. Is there anything else important in the mirage? There doesn't seem to be anything that Yun Zhongjuan is reluctant to leave, young Master Ming said with a frown. Of course there is, and it's a very important thing. He deliberately left 6 hours of my lifespan in the elixir of immortality because he wanted to get his hands on that important item. Dustless dragged his voice as he spoke. It should be to torture you. After all, Sect Master often scolded Yun Zhongjuan. That guy probably hates him to the core, Concubine Yen guessed softly. You're wrong. Torturing me is just one of his reasons. Dustless shook his head. He didn't care about that bullshit tea poison. It was too trashy. Yun Zhongjuan prepared all the herbs for the elixir of immortality, but there is only one thing that only I have. Dustless looked a little smug. He said calmly, the so-called immortal blood I gave him is the primer for refining the elixir of immortality. Both of them are indispensable. If Yun Zhongjuan wants to curry favor with Lu Ji, he will definitely not let go of this immortal blood. In fact, the so-called immortal blood was completely Dustless's blood. It was just that no one knew about it. To refine the elixir of immortality, one needed Dustless's blood as a primer. Without this herb, one couldn't refine the elixir of immortality. Therefore, Dustless was sure that Yun Zhongjuan would come back. Now, he just informed Zhang Liang and the others to rebel and attack Shanghai. People were greedy by nature. It was just that it had never changed since ancient times. By the way, has Fu Su transferred the people here? Dustless looked at the moon goddess with an inquiring look. Sect Master, are you referring to Meng Tian? He has secretly come to Shanghai City. In addition, there are tens of thousands of Golden Fire cavalry. After learning that Sect Master is dead, those rebels will no longer have any scruples. The first person that Zhang Liang and the others will attack will probably be Shanghai. Chapter 1996. The moon god blurted out everything in her memory. In her heart, she had already regarded Dustless as her only boss. Very good. Hearing this, Dustless nodded with satisfaction. He immediately closed his eyes and said, go and find Meng Tian. As for this place, leave it to me. We'll take our leave. Everyone looked at each other, and then they all took their leave. No matter who came, everyone knew an eternal truth. In this world, there was no one that Dustless could not defeat. Everyone who came was seeking death. Are you sure? Are you sure you've poisoned Dustless to death? In the dark room where Zhang Liang and Yun Zhongjuan secretly met, Zhang Liang almost cried tears of joy when he heard that Dustless, an eyesore, was finally dead. His expression was as excited as Yun Zhongjuan before, and he almost burst into tears. It sounded very exaggerated, but if one thought about it carefully, one could understand Zhang Liang's feelings. Since the appearance of Dustless, Zhang Liang's life had fallen into a dark period. At first, Dustless had robbed him of his identity as the third master of the scholarly faction. Then, his senior brother Fu Nian had been killed. The mastermind behind the scenes was Dustless, but he had framed Zhang Liang and even killed his own senior brother. Because of this, Zhang Liang had been cursed by the world, and his end was extremely miserable. Therefore, Zhang Liang actually hated Dustless to death. His hatred was even deeper than Yun Zhongjuan's. Of course, I'm sure Dustless is dead. If Dustless wasn't poisoned to death by me, would I still be alive to see you? Yun Zhongjuan said with a serious face. Hearing this, Zhang Liang was stunned for a moment. He nodded and agreed. That's true. With Dustless's personality, he will definitely tear you into pieces. Ha 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 ha, that's right. Yun Zhongjuan was overjoyed. He immediately handed a few elixirs of immortality to Zhang Liang and said generously, "Take them. These are the elixirs of immortality that I refined." What? Elixirs of immortality? Hearing this, the corner of Zhang Liang's eyes twitched fiercely. A rare look of greed flashed across his face. Is it really the elixirs of immortality? Nonsense. Seeing that Zhang Liang was questioning him, Yun Zhongjuan's expression quickly changed. He rebuked angrily. Are you doubting my ability? If you don't like it, give it to me. As soon as he finished speaking, Yun Zhongjuan reached out his hand and grabbed it. Take it or leave it. Cough, 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 this is my fault. Zhang Liang hurriedly changed his words and immediately put away the elixir of immortality. He then said respectfully, Lord Yun Zhongjuan is a god. You can even refine such a legendary item. You are indeed worthy of being the head of the school of Yin Yang. No, you should be the head of the school of Yin Yang soon. Hehe. I still have something to do. Goodbye. Yun Zhongjuan waved his hand magnanimously. Then he turned his head and said, I still have something to do. I'll return to the Mirage first. See you tomorrow. The reason why Yun Zhongjuan hurriedly came to meet Zhang Liang was that he hoped to spread the news of Dustless's death as soon as possible. In this way, the Shinnong Hall and the Four Peaks Hall of the School of Agriculture would definitely take the opportunity to attack Shanghai. Most of the main forces of the Qin army were pinned down. As a result, Yun Zhongjuan's opportunity had come. Yun Zhongjuan raised his hand slightly and hurried back to the Mirage. The elixir of immortality? There seems to be a lot of it. Zhang Liang quietly glanced at the big jade bottles of the elixir of immortality that Yun Zhongjuan took out everywhere. When he heard the rustling sound, a flame that he had never felt before quietly burned in his heart. There are so many elixirs of immortality, and you're only giving me one. You're being too unkind, Yun Zhongjuan. No matter what, we'll be on the same side in the future. You should give me half of the good stuff. All mortals had a morbid desire for the elixir of immortality. Since Zhang Liang was a mortal, he was no exception. Or rather, all living beings were like this. If they could live longer, who would be willing to die? At this moment, in another direction. Damn Dustless, don't die! Yun Zhongjuan hurriedly ran back to the Mirage without taking a break. In fact, Dustless had guessed correctly. Yun Zhongjuan gave Dustless 3 hours to ask about the origin of the immortal blood. When they first left the Mirage, Yun Zhongjuan didn't mention the source of the deity's blood, because he hoped that Wuchen would understand the feeling of being tortured. That way, the negotiation would be easier to achieve. Cough, cough, cough. How long has this apple been here? The taste has changed. Just as he was about to enter the hall, Yun Zhongjuan suddenly stopped and muttered, Isn't that Dustless's voice? He has been poisoned. How can he still have the time to eat an apple? Yun Zhongjuan was puzzled. Subconsciously, he quickened his pace. The moment Yun Zhongjuan stepped out of the hall, he was completely stunned. What the F***ck is going on? Yun Zhongjuan cursed, which was rare. His sharp voice was as harsh as a eunuch's. When he looked closer, he saw Dustless lying comfortably on the main seat with his legs crossed. He was holding a big apple in one hand and gnawing on it. He looked very satisfied and happy. His eyes were narrowed as if he was enjoying himself. Dustless naturally noticed Yun Zhongjuan's presence. He quickly threw away the apple in his hand, covered his stomach and wailed, Ouch, it hurt so much. What a powerful poison. You bastard. Hearing this, Yun Zhongjuan was furious. He roared, Are you still going to pretend at this point? Dustless, do you think I am an idiot? Chapter 1997. Damn it, what's going on? This guy obviously ate poison. Why isn't he affected at all? Yun Zhongjuan stared at Dustless with a pained expression. He saw that Dustless's face was plump and full of vigor, and his whole body was full of awe-inspiring momentum. His eyes, which flashed with light from time to time, looked very healthy. Obviously, Dustless was fine at this moment. Ah! I'm sorry, Yun Zhongjuan. I wanted to play with you for a while, but I didn't expect you to come back so early and find out. I haven't had enough fun yet. Dustless didn't care about Yun Zhongjuan's dark face at all. He muttered to himself disappointedly. Damn bastard, you deliberately pretended to be dead and poisoned just to play with me? Yun Zhongjuan looked aggrieved. Then he scolded angrily, you are really good at acting. You were not poisoned, but you pretended to be in tears. Idiot, your attainments in alchemy are indeed not bad, but in terms of brain power, I really don't dare to compliment you, Yun Zhongjuan. After taking a bite of the apple, Dustless explained lazily, I can tell you clearly that I was poisoned by you, but the quality of your poison is not good enough. It has no effect on me. The effect is too weak. It only caused me to have diarrhea for 10 minutes. The effect is too weak? Yun Zhongjuan lost his balance and fell down. Not to mention that Dustless ate the whole poison. Ordinary people would die on the spot if they ate a small piece of it, which was about the size of a grain in the desert. Dustless said that the effect was not strong enough. Yun Zhongjuan sincerely felt that he was teasing him. Cut the crap. Give me the immortal blood. Yun Zhongjuan was very excited when he thought of the immortal blood, which was the primer for refining the elixir of immortality. Only this kind of thing could be used to refine the real elixir of immortality. The Mirage was looking for the immortal elixir. But now that he had the immortal blood, things like immortal elixirs became insignificant. Yun Zhongjuan was eager to get it. You mean the immortal blood? Dustless chuckled and then pointed to his wrist. After you defeat me, the blood that flows out of my body is the immortal elixir that you have been dreaming of. You! Upon hearing this, Yun Zhongjuan was furious. Dustless, he felt that he was being treated as an idiot. Dustless, do you think I'm an idiot? Your blood is immortal blood. Doesn't that mean that you are a descendant of an immortal? Do you think we're all 3-year-olds? Do you think I can lie to you at will? The more Yun Zhongjuan spoke, the angrier he became. His lungs were about to explode. Hee, aren't you just fooled by me? Dustless ruthlessly attacked Yun Zhongjuan. Then, he lowered his head and said, Old man, you have been flirting with the people of the farmer's family behind my back. The reason why you couldn't wait to leave just now was to inform them, right? Ha ha ha. That's right, you're still going to die. Now that his scheme had been exposed, Yun Zhongjuan didn't try to hide anything. He admitted frankly, Dustless, you may be strong alone, but can you still win against a powerful army? For some people, quantity was a huge advantage. However, for some people, quantity was meaningless. Not even the slightest bit of meaning could be found in numbers. I forgot to tell you. Seeing the smug look on Yun Zhongjuan's face, Dustless couldn't help but tell him the truth. A large number of Qin troops have gathered outside Shanghai. The main force is the Golden Fire Cavalry. You should be familiar with the leader, Meng Tian of the Meng family. These words were like a shot in the arm. The moment they came out of Dustless's mouth, Yun Zhongjuan was stunned on the spot. Everyone in the world knew the reputation of the Golden Fire Cavalry. Fighting in groups was what the Golden Fire Cavalry was best at. You bastard! Have you been scheming against me from the beginning? Yun Zhongjuan was so angry that his eyes turned red. So what if I did? So what if I didn't? You're now a turtle in a jar. Dustless looked at Yun Zhongjuan indifferently and told him the basic reason why he indulged Yun Zhongjuan. I let you live in the past because I thought you were still useful. But now, there's no need to execute you. After the elixir of immortality was successfully refined, Yun Zhongjuan, it means that your value has been squeezed out. Swish. 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 Upon hearing this, Yun Zhongjuan, who was furious, finally could not suppress his anger. He suddenly exploded, turned into a black shadow, and rushed toward Dustless. Clang. 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 In the black wind, there was a dangerous cold light, which was filled with a desolate chill. The sharpness of the light made people's hearts palpitate. It was not difficult to see that Yun Zhongjuan's sword, Amaterasu, had been unsheathed and was slashing toward Wu Chen, who was sitting on the seat. How pathetic. Someone who overestimates himself actually dares to challenge me. Dustless sighed softly. Then he blinked slightly, and Yun Zhongjuan's body inexplicably burned with flames. A strange eye power spread out in his eyes. It seemed invisible, but it was real. The eye power that had not dissipated lingered in his eyes, causing faint ripples. Amaterasu. All of this happened too suddenly. Although Yun Zhongjuan immediately saw Dustless's strange eyes and realized that something was wrong, he instinctively retreated. However, he was still devoured by the evil black flames. Ah! My hand! A hysterical scream came from Yun Zhongjuan's mouth. His entire right arm was burned by Amaterasu. His throat was filled with an uncomfortable dryness, and his throat was about to crack. Ever since Yun Zhongjuan encountered the Amaterasu, he was doomed to die. Although there were many ways to get rid of the burning of Amaterasu, Yun Zhongjuan was helpless. He could only be slowly devoured. Chapter 1998. Amaterasu was not invincible. There were many people who could dodge its attack. For example, Uchiha Madara, Orochimaru, and Uzumaki Naruto. However, everyone was sure that their strength was far beyond Yun Zhongjuan's. Others could dodge it because they were strong. As for Yun Zhongjuan in front of him, he could dodge the attack of Amaterasu. The sun rose from the west. Oh, damn it! Being burned by fire, a fire that could never be extinguished, not only did it bring physical pain, but it also brought about mental oppression. Fight! In the end, Yun Zhongjuan gritted his teeth and swung his sword. Then, he did something that Dustless did not expect. Puchi! The sword light penetrated Yun Zhongjuan's body, and his arm, which was burning with black flames, fell to the ground. This old guy is really bold. He actually took the initiative to cut off his own arm. Dustless was quite surprised. Not everyone had the ability to regenerate infinitely like he did. Whether it was on a whim or after careful consideration, Yun Zhongjuan's courage to cut off his own arm so decisively was enough to impress others. However, this is also the best choice. Yun Zhongjuan could still make the right choice in the face of such a great disaster. It was not bad. Cutting off his arm was his only choice. There was no other way. Yun Zhongjuan, what do you think? Suddenly giving up on attacking, Dustless slowly stood up and walked over. You originally wanted to kill me, right? Now, the outcome has been reversed. The person who is about to be executed is you. I have always been a very kind person. Come, tell me your last words. Last words. Yun Zhongjuan's old face twitched when he heard this. For some reason, every time he talked to Dustless, his calm heart began to rage. He was not dead yet, but he wanted him to say his last words. Was there anyone who was so good at cursing people? Dustless's expression, which seemed to say, "You should thank me," made Yun Zhongjuan feel disgusted. Ah, why are you looking at me with such hatred? I'm doing this for your own good because the next move, you will definitely die. Dustless was not afraid of Yun Zhongjuan's hateful gaze. He shrugged with an expression that said, I'm thinking for you. Of course, if you really don't have any last words, then. Ta-ta-ta. Just as Dustless's voice fell, the quiet surroundings suddenly throbbed. The sound of hurried footsteps came closer and closer, and Dustless's cold face also relaxed. Who is going up the mirage at this time? Dustless's gloomy face was replaced by curiosity as he looked out of the palace expectantly. Phew! Seeing that Dustless's attention had been diverted, Yun Zhongjuan, who finally got a chance to catch his breath, quickly took a deep breath of fresh air. The way he took a deep breath made it seem like he was very reluctant to part with the fresh air of the world. Yun Zhongjuan, I've finally found you. This is great. A voice suddenly rang out, filled with endless joy. Zhang Liang. After seeing the visitor, Dustless frowned slightly and pondered. Why did Zhang Liang come to the mirage? Just now, I used my observation hockey to perceive that the entire Sangxi is in a mess. The Qin army has also started a war with the people of Shenongtang and Siuetang. There was a saying that when enemies met, their eyes would turn red, and blood would flow like rivers. Overall, the Qin army had the advantage. After all, The disciples of the School of Agriculture were mostly a bunch of random people, while the Qin Army's Gold Fire Cavalry were the elites of the elites. According to common sense, Zhang Liang should be assisting Lu Ji in the war at this time. Why did he appear in the mirage? Could it be that he is here for? Suddenly thinking of something that no one could let go of, Dustless smiled strangely. Dustless. Isn't this bastard dead? Seeing the miserable Yun Zhongjuan, Zhang Liang glanced at the young man with evil intentions and a cheeky smile on his face. A face that he would never forget suddenly came into his sight. This bastard Yun Zhongjuan. Didn't he say that he poisoned Dustless to death? This guy is still alive and well. Zhang Liang regretted it. If he had known that Dustless was still alive, he would never have come to the mirage. Wasn't he walking into a trap? It was all because of Yun Zhongjuan. Cough, cough, cough. Yun Zhongjuan felt the resentment of Zhang Liang, so he had to endure the pain of his broken arm and suggested, Mr. Zhang Liang, let's work together to deal with Dustless. After we succeed, I will give you 10 elixirs of immortality. How about that? Deal. After pretending to be reserved for a while, Zhang Liang nodded resolutely. Okay, let's deal with Dustless together. Yun Zhongjuan was overjoyed and looked at Dustless again. His eyes were full of determination. He waved his sword and was about to attack Dustless when he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his abdomen. Puchi! The cold and sharp long sword penetrated Yun Zhongjuan's abdomen, crushing his internal organs and causing him to bleed. This is... Yun Zhongjuan's eyes widened when he saw this. He looked down at the long sword in his abdomen in horror and felt dizzy. What surprised him the most was that the person who attacked him was not Dustless. Why? When he turned his head, he saw Zhang Liang with a cold face. Why? It's simple. I don't like to waste energy on things that don't pay me back. Zhang Liang glanced at Yun Zhongjuan and gave him a kick without hesitation. Bang! Yun Zhongjuan was kicked 5 or 6 meters away. His face was bruised from the fall. How naive! Dustless glanced at Yun Zhongjuan with pity and could not help but sigh. In the face of the deadly temptation of the elixirs of immortality, how could 10 of them satisfy Zhang Liang's appetite? Of course, it was far from enough. Unless Yun Zhongjuan gave all the elixirs of immortality to Zhang Liang, his ambition would be curbed. Then, the two of them would work together to deal with Dustless. Chapter 1999. Damn you, Zhang Liang. How dare you betray me? You used to be a member of the Confucian school of thought. Are all members of the Confucian school of thought like you? Despicable. Hypocrite. Yun Zhongjuan glared at Zhang Liang. His murderous eyes revealed the anger in his heart. Originally, they planned to happily kill Dustless together, rebel together, and become the founding heroes of the country together. However, who would have thought that Zhang Liang would be so insidious and despicable? Zhang Liang had betrayed him for the elixir of life. Yun Zhongjuan panicked when he thought about it. He had fought Dustless and died in battle. However, Zhang Liang had plotted against him and killed him. Yun Zhongjuan felt aggrieved and angry. Zhang Liang, you shameless traitor! Even though Yun Zhongjuan did not have long to live, he did not hide his resentment toward Zhang Liang. He was like a volcano on the verge of erupting. His body was brimming with rage. He wanted to take revenge, but he was powerless to fight back. Even though Zhang Liang was right in front of him, it was still an insurmountable gap for him. Yun Zhongjuan's internal organs were all destroyed. It was already commendable that he could barely maintain his consciousness. Give it to me. Zhang Liang coldly snatched the large jade bottle containing the elixir of life. He looked through the narrow hole and saw a large number of red pills. He was overjoyed. I don't know if this elixir of life can make one immortal, but I believe that it can prolong one's life. Yun Zhongjuan had given Zhang Liang one before. To be safe, Zhang Liang gave it to an old man to use. It was not out of kindness. He just wanted to experiment on the old man. Then, a miraculous scene happened. The old man actually recovered to his middle-aged age. In his excitement, Zhang Liang even forgot about helping Lu Ji fight the war. Compared to immortality, everything else was not worth mentioning. Let's split it in half. From now on, we will go our separate ways and mind our own business. How about that? Zhang Liang asked as he looked at Dustless. Hearing this, Zhang Liang ignored him and just shook his head casually. His meaning was self-evident. You're rejecting this? Zhang Liang frowned slightly. He was not surprised. The strong always had some privileges. How about you take 60% and I take 40%? Zhang Liang had no choice but to take another step back. However, Zhang Liang's flattery did not have much effect. Dustless only looked at him indifferently and remained silent. It seemed that he was still unwilling. That greedy bastard. Seeing the situation, Zhang Liang secretly cursed in his heart. People as greedy as Dustless were as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. You take 70% and I take 30%. I can't go any lower. Taking a deep breath, Zhang Liang looked at Wu Chen firmly and fearlessly. Obviously, this was his bottom line and it was impossible for him to back off. Wu Chen smiled and said, Don't worry. Don't worry. Who would have thought that Wu Chen just sighed and then said calmly, Zifang, don't you think it's ridiculous? The elusive mirage is my territory to begin with. The immortal medicines primer used to concoct the immortal elixir is also my blood. This is originally mine. Now that you want to share my treasure, if you were me, would you agree to it? Ha ha ha. Zhang Liang was dumbfounded. However, Yun Zhongjuan, who was on the verge of death, started laughing. Zhang Liang, you're dumbfounded, aren't you? I know our sect master better than you do. If you joined forces with me, you might have a chance of winning. However, since you've ambushed me, you can forget about getting the immortal elixir. Yun Zhongjuan curled his lips and mocked Zhang Liang, whose face had turned green. There was a pleased expression on his face. Tisk. TSK. As expected of my former subordinate. You know me well. Dustless smiled knowingly. Then, he looked mockingly at Zhang Liang, whose face had turned green. Damn it! After a moment of silence, Zhang Liang glanced at the large number of immortal pills in the jade bottle reluctantly. Then, he decisively smashed it on the ground. Dustless, you can forget about getting what I can't get. Zhang Liang's face was contorted as he laughed maniacally. It seemed like he was going to fight to the death. He even wanted to die together with Dustless. You've overestimated yourself. Just as the jade bottle was about to hit the ground, a strong gravitational force suddenly pulled it over. Wanxiang Heavenly Attraction. Dustless gently hooked his finger, and the jade bottle that was about to fall to the ground fell into his hand. How dare you smash my things on my ground, Zhang Liang? You're so arrogant. If I don't kill you, I'm afraid no one will respect me in the future. Dustless placed the jade bottle that contained a large number of immortal elixirs aside. He leaned his head on his palm and said lazily, Come on, I'll give you a few chances to resist. If it's a one-sided suppression every time, it'll be too boring. Since God has given life to ants like you, it's also indirectly giving you the right to struggle. As a human being, one must be merciful. If Zhang Liang was killed in an instant, he would definitely cry but have no tears. You bastard, stop talking to yourself. Upon hearing this, Zhang Liang glared at him angrily. His majestic killing intent erupted to the extreme. Very good. Come here. Seeing that Zhang Liang was really angry, Dustless became interested. Come on, Zifang. I'm right here. Look at your sword. With contempt in his eyes, Dustless provoked him. Just as he was waiting for Zhang Liang to kill him, this guy's action shocked Dustless. Xiao 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 xiao. Although his act was very scary, it was still an act. In the end, Zhang Liang suddenly turned his head and pushed his inner force to the maximum limit. Damn it! He shamelessly ran away. Zhang Liang, I was kind enough to give you a stage to perform on, but you insisted on running away. Forget it, I'll kill you in one move. At most, you can complain to the King of Hell. Anyway, I won't die, so there's no loss. 90 of Breaking Dao. Black Coffin. Chapter 2000. I wanted to let you die with your corpse intact, but you just had to choose to be cut into pieces. Is it more appropriate to say that you are pathetic and ignorant, or that you are retarded? Is your brain damaged by the door frame, Zifang? Dustless was puzzled as he stared coldly at Zhang Liang, who was leaving with a whistling sound. Whoosh, whoosh. A demonic black luster suddenly appeared in the dead space. The power it emitted was terrifying and eerie. Wherever it passed, the void was slightly distorted and showed signs of collapsing. Damn it! Zhang Liang naturally felt that he was targeted by countless murderous intents. Cold sweat kept dripping down like rain. Break for me! Seeing the black light coming from the left, Zhang Liang suddenly swung the long sword in his hand with force. A dangerous slash appeared at the front of Ling Su's sword. Are you still struggling before your death? How boring. It's time for you to wake up, Zifang. Hearing this, Dustless didn't even bother to look. Zhang Liang was just a human. How could he resist number 90's Tao Breaker? This was not a dream. Zhang Liang was still countless dimensions away. The slash that Zhang Liang had high hopes for collapsed the moment it came into contact with the black evil luster. Not even a residue was left. It collapsed inexplicably. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Zhang Liang himself became a fat lamb waiting to be slaughtered. He could only watch the incoming black light with despair in his heart. Zhang Liang's body was instantly torn apart by the black coffin. Not to mention his fragile body, even his hard bones were easily cut off. Zhang Liang turned into a pile of bloody foam. Boring. Seeing Zhang Liang killed so easily, Dustless suddenly felt dispirited. He had hoped that Zhang Liang would play a few more rounds, but he didn't expect Zhang Liang to be so weak. How funny. You were injured first, but you are still alive. You are lucky, Yun Zhongjuan. Dustless lowered his head to look at Yun Zhongjuan, who was still breathing, and said teasingly, Yun Zhongjuan, you have completed your mission. I advise you to die obediently. Dustless bent down and pointed at Zhang Liang, who had turned into minced meat, and said with a harmless smile, Yun Zhongjuan, you'd better not defend yourself. Do you want to become like Zhang Liang? You'll become a pile of minced meat. You bastard! Upon hearing this, Yun Zhongjuan glared at Dustless with resentment. Then, he closed his eyes with eternal unwillingness. Yun Zhongjuan and Zhang Liang died just like that. At this moment, in another direction, the ongoing battle was gradually coming to an end. All troops, listen up. Defeat these lawless rebels. Remember, dead or alive. Sanghe, which was usually full of undercurrents, had completely become an important place for the rebels of the farmers and the fire cavalry of Qin State to fight. Moreover, the outcome was exactly the same as Dustless had imagined. In the end, the rebels of the farmers were defeated, and many of the top officials of the farmers and Situ Wanli were wanted. The Qin army almost used overwhelming strength to inflict heavy losses on the Shenong Hall. All of them were defeated and disintegrated. Of course, the fundamental reason was that Wu Chen had told Meng Tian about the rebellion of the Nong family. Only then could Meng Tian win this war. At this moment, on the Mirage. I'm so shocked. I didn't expect that you guys would be captured alive. In the magnificent hall, Dustless sat in the former seat of Dong Huang Tai. On his left and right sides were Yueshan, Concubine Yen, Great Master Ming, Young Master Ming, and others. As for Yu she sat intimately on Dustless's lap, swinging her bare feet. Wu Chen, you traitor. If you want to kill me, then kill me. If you want to scrape me, then scrape me. I can tell you that I will never tell you the news you want. In the spacious hall, several felons were kneeling, including Chu Nangong, the new hall master of the Shenongtang, Situ Wanli, the hall master of the Four Mountains Hall. In addition, there was a very unexpected figure. Master Xiaomeng, I can understand if others betray the Qin kingdom, but what about you? Not only were Chu Nangong and others captives, but even the head of the school of Taoism, Xiaomeng, was also Dustless's prisoner. Her status was very miserable and awkward. A while ago, Xiaomeng was still a brilliant genius, and her status in the Qin kingdom was not lower than Dustless's. She was deeply trusted by Ying Zhang and Fu Su, but now she suddenly stood on the side of the rebels. Dustless really felt that a woman's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the sea. He did not know what Xiaomeng was thinking and what she was planning. You want the school of Taoism to be affiliated with the school of Yinyang? Dream on! Xiaomeng snorted when she heard that, and then she gave an answer that made Dustless want to cry. Annexing the school of Taoism? Annexation was possible, but what about the benefits of the school of Taoism? Dustless was a typical egoist. Not only would it not benefit him, but it would also cause a lot of trouble. Dustless could not arouse the slightest interest. If I want to annex the school of Taoism, what do you think those good-for-nothings can do? Not only would annexing the school of Taoism bring no benefits, but also a lot of disadvantages. Dustless was naturally not interested in such a thankless task. Humph, if you want to kill me, just do it. Cut the crap. Even though Xiaomeng had been captured as a prisoner, her words still revealed her unchanging arrogance. Wu Chen, who was under her, was rather annoyed and gloomy. This woman is a little too cold. You have a tough temper, Xiaomeng. You have to understand the gap between us. I am the real master of the school of Yin Yang, and you are just a prisoner. If you want to live, you'd better lower your head and beg me. Chapter 2001. Lower my head? When she heard this, Xiaomeng smiled and said softly, "Don't you think that's ridiculous? You want me to lower my head? Dustless, you're still too weak." Hee. Unexpectedly, Dustless only smiled casually. His interest was suddenly piqued. Interesting. I like people who refuse to submit to me. That's what makes it interesting. You bastard. Xiaomeng's gaze was slightly gloomy. She suddenly had a bad feeling about this. Combined with Dustless's way of doing things, it was impossible for her to think in a positive direction. Some bored people of the Jianghu even gave Dustless an appropriate nickname, the Smiling Tiger. They hinted that Dustless was a treacherous person who liked to play tricks. Xiaomeng, from now on your Taoist sect. Dustless looked at Xiaomeng mockingly and said loudly, "This world is too small. The Yin Yang sect is enough. There won't be any Taoist sect." Nonsense. When she heard this, Xiaomeng immediately stood up and glared at him. It's not up to you to decide whether the Taoist sect exists or not. You don't have the right. What a joke. Dustless sneered. The victor will plunder the loser. This has been the nature since ancient times. The victor will step on a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood to show off. This is fate. Now, you're saying that I don't have the right. Is this something a loser like you should say? Get your facts straight. Also, I forgot to tell you earlier. There's no Taoist sect in this world anymore. Dustless ignored Xiaomeng's stunned gaze and said bluntly, the Taoist sect and the Yin Yang sect belong to the same sect. It's normal for them to merge. It's just that the name of this sect has changed. What's it called? When she saw Dustless's evil smile, Xiaomeng felt even more uneasy. Do I have to tell you that? Of course, it's the Yin Yang sect. From now on, there's only one sect master, and that's me. Dustless suddenly pointed at himself with his thumb and said coldly, You don't have a choice. Now, hurry up and call me sect master. Dustless smiled as he looked at Xiaomeng. His eyes were filled with anticipation. Xiaomeng's bitter expression was especially interesting to Dustless. In your dreams, Xiaomeng coldly replied. However, her eyes were a little dim. Even though she verbally protested against Dustless's actions, Xiaomeng couldn't deny that she had no means to resist Dustless. After all, she was a prisoner now, so what right did she have to fight Dustless? So stubborn. Dustless frowned. Soon after he coldly said, Xiaomeng, it's fine if you resist me, however, there are many disciples in your Taoist sect. I believe that no one will object to finding a groundless reason to start a massacre. You bastard, why are you so insidious? Upon hearing this, Xiaomeng could no longer maintain her calm. Although she was not afraid of death and was not afraid of Dustless's threats, wouldn't Xiaomeng be a great sinner if the foundation of Taoism that had lasted for hundreds of years was destroyed? She couldn't accept it. That's right. In your dreams, you still want to annex the 100 schools of thought. Wishful thinking. Chu Nangong also sternly replied, No one will agree with your actions. Don't even think about doing whatever you want. Old thing, just say it if you want to die. I don't mind sending you to heaven. Upon hearing this, Dustless's expression turned cold. Suddenly, a bright light appeared at the tip of his finger. Then, under Chu Nangong's shocked gaze, a dazzling light shot out from his finger. A charred bloody hole appeared in his head. Soon after, he breathed his last. His eyes were wide open as if he didn't expect Dustless to kill someone without saying anything. You can refuse to accept it, but the price you have to pay is your life, just like Chu Nangong. Dustless's gaze swept past Lu Ji and the others. He coldly ordered, Moon Goddess, suppress all of them. From now on, the 100 schools of thought will only have the Yin-Yang sect. Although the name was a little strange, it wasn't the main point. After all, the 100 schools of thought had disappeared, and Dustless's mission had come to an end. Now that the Yellowstone Heavenly Book and the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon were in his hands, it was time to leave this world. As for the Moon Goddess and the others, Dustless had also told them about his background. Although they were shocked, when they heard that Dustless was going to take them away, they showed great interest. The 3,000 universes, the 3,000 worlds, and all living things were curious about the unknown mysterious world. As for the matter of the Qin Kingdom, after the 100 schools of thought disappeared, it was completely peaceful. The saying that heroes use their martial arts to break the rules was not said casually. After some sects disappeared, those arrogant martial artists also disappeared without a trace. All the disputes in the past naturally disappeared. By the way, take it. Dustless suddenly picked up Yun Zhongjuan's jade bottle and poured out dozens of elixirs of immortality. He handed them to the women and said, You can't use the things that I use, so I can only give you these elixirs of immortality. I don't know if they can make you immortal, but they can definitely keep you young forever and prolong your life. The Moon Goddess and the others looked at the blood-red elixirs and were very touched. After all, the elixirs of immortality were not ordinary things. For Dustless to give them such precious things, it was not a big deal. At least, they were sure that Dustless cared about them very much. Chapter 2002. In the Systems World. Dustless handed over the collected Yellowstone Heavenly Book and Azure Dragon's 7 mansions to the Systems Consciousness, Ling. In reality, he really didn't know what the use of these things was. The mission is completed. If you have any conditions, feel free to state them. Seeing Dustless handing over the 2 antiques, Ling revealed a rare smile. Cough, cough, cough. That's not necessary. Most of the credit for me being able to reach where I am today is due to you. Dustless chewed on a piece of grass in his mouth, as if he didn't intend to accept Linger's benefits. Humans must know how to be grateful. A drop of water should be repaid with a gushing spring. But hee. However, this scene didn't last long. Dustless's face suddenly changed, and he said with a smirk, But if I don't take your benefits, isn't that not giving you face? What if I hurt your self-esteem? I'm not that kind of person. After all, you still want benefits. You can just say it. There's no need to tease others like this. Hearing this, Linga was secretly angry. Although she had seen Dustless's shamelessness a long time ago, at this moment, she was still shocked. Can I really agree to any condition? It feels like I've found a wishing machine. Dustless whispered in disbelief, and then immediately said bluntly, Make me as powerful as you. Sorry, it's difficult to do. Also, forcibly increasing a person's level is harmful. Linger shook her head. It seemed that he wasn't omniscient and omnipotent. Then I have no wish. Waving his hand, Dustless intended to postpone indefinitely. Maybe in the future it would be useful, but in reality, it was just a casual remark. Then I'll just muddle through? Ling-er was secretly delighted. Ha! Muddle through? You think I'm at your beck and call. Mutual benefit is the essence of the mission. If there are no benefits, tell me, who will work for you? You want to cheat me of my wages? If you're so powerful, why don't you go to heaven? Dustless's spittle flew all over the sky. Linger was choked speechless by his words. We'll talk about it later. Let me think about what I need in the future. Then I'll come and find you. Dustless snorted. Send me to the next world. I knew you wouldn't act until you see the rabbit. How could you just leave it like that? Ling-er smiled bitterly and sighed at how naive she was. How could an egoist be as charitable as a good person? It would be a miracle if the heavens didn't give him more interest. Ka. With a light wave of her hand, a ripple appeared in the void. Then, a weak black hole expanded and quietly formed a stable spatial tunnel. Plop! Dustless went in like a stone thrown into the sea, and there was no more movement. In the pitch-black night, Police sirens were everywhere, and the clamor of human voices filled the night sky. It's really miserable. Who gave those bastard ghouls the right to live in the world? Damn it, why is there such a monster? They are not even as valuable as domestic animals. More than domestic animals, it is a waste for them to live under the air. Domestic animals can fill their stomachs, but we humans can only fill their stomachs. At the corner of the alley, a large number of ordinary citizens gathered, looking at the blood all over the ground, and the police who often talked about the word ghouls. They all walked away with a look of horror and disgust. To some extent, ghouls were the natural enemies of humans. If they wanted to live, they must eat humans. Other food was disgusting in the mouth of ghouls. This also caused the fight between the two. Which human was willing to let themselves become the food of ghouls? At the same time, the hunger of ghouls was equivalent to hell, and they had to eat humans in order to survive. From the starting point, there was no right or wrong between the two. To put it simply, it was a war that had to be fought for survival. Ouch, it hurts. In the gloomy alley, there was a sound of a headache, and then Dustless with a blurred face slowly walked out. When he saw a large number of people in front of him, he was about to ask where he was, but a large number of policemen pointed their guns at Dustless. Stop, don't move. The appearance of Dustless immediately caused panic. The humans fled in all directions, and even used all their strength. In an instant, the crowd disappeared without a trace. I seem to have heard them talking about the word, ghouls. Did they also think that I was the kind of monster that ate human flesh? Dustless muttered in his heart and immediately said loudly, "Listen to my explanation, I am a human, not..." Clang! However, without giving Dustless the opportunity to speak and explain, a dense bullet swept over. "There is no doubt that he is a ghoul. Go and contact CCG to support us." A large number of bullets fell on Dustless, but they did not pierce Dustless's skin. It was impossible for humans to have such a hard skin. This group of policemen also inferred that Dustless's identity was a ghoul. Only the skin of ghouls could have such a defense. You are a group of brain dead. I disdain to slaughter the weak human beings. Since you want to die, I will send you to heaven to visit God. Then I am too inhumane. Dustless's face gradually became cold. His pupils accelerated, and the boundless black fire suddenly came. Amaterasu! In an instant, the group of policemen was burned by the sudden black fire, and even the bodies were not left. You are reckless. In the next life, be smart. Don't aim at the top predators that are far more dangerous than ghouls. Chapter 2003. Blind Thing. After whispering, Dustless left. His head was dizzy all the way. Falling from a height of tens of thousands of meters, the taste was really uncomfortable. Until now, Dustless's head was still a little stuffy, and he couldn't find the direction. The 20th district? Suddenly he saw a huge sign with the words, "The 20th district," clearly written on it. This is interesting. A pillow is sent when I want to sleep. From now on, this is my place. Dustless muttered to himself, and at the same time, he gently glanced at the several gloomy figures behind him. He just smiled contemptuously and walked away. The ghouls were not worth mentioning. The more he knew about them, the more self-righteous this group of cannibal demons were. What is that kid's eyes? Is he looking down on us? Suddenly, they saw Dustless's contemptuous eyes, and several ghouls who were wandering in the alley glared at him. Hey, don't worry about that idiot. It won't take long for him to be killed. He doesn't even wear a mask. He doesn't know how to write the word, death. There are cameras all around here, and it won't take long for White Dove to find trouble with that kid. It seems to be here. In the early morning of the next day, Dustless found a coffee shop with a good environment according to the location in his memory. Looking through the window, the interior of the coffee shop was quite elegant and classy. The store manager seems to be called Yoshimura Gakusen, nicknamed Owl, is an SSS class ghoul, and his strength seems to be good. He also has a daughter, One-Eyed King, who is also an SSS class ghoul. Dustless murmured, trying to recall the past about Yoshimura Gakusen. He didn't even find the figures coming from the side. Many people showed greedy eyes to Dustless, like hungry beasts. What coffee shop? It is obviously a den of thieves. Roughly glancing at all the people who passed by, Wuxia smelled a strong smell of blood from them. Although they concealed it quite cleverly, It was still full of flaws. On one side, they kept calm, but on the other side, they looked at Dustless hungrily. What is this if not a ghoul? Young man. At this moment, a rather friendly voice suddenly sounded. Then, a slightly old figure slowly walked over. His eyes were closed the whole time, and he looked very strange. It's you? Dustless raised his head slightly and saw the owner of the coffee shop, Yoshimura Gyozen. Young man, do you know me? Manager Yoshimura Gyozen's tone changed. I know you, but you don't know me. Dustless muttered in his heart. His eyes moved and he immediately said, I heard that the coffee here is pretty good. The store manager's reputation is widespread. That's all thanks to the guest. If you don't mind, come in for a cup of coffee. Kozen Yoshimura smiled slightly. He was very humble and friendly. It was hard to imagine that he was the legendary SSS class ghoul. Thank you. Dustless nodded. His impression of the store manager had increased. A group of ghouls saw that the store manager invited Dustless as a guest. They were a little dazed. They didn't know what the old man was doing. This guy's breath obviously belonged to a human. Why would he pull a human into a coffee shop full of ghouls and wait for him to be dismembered? Hey, I want to see which idiot thinks that his teeth are powerful and wants to eat me. His ambition is not small. Seeing everyone's greedy eyes, Dustless sneered. This was a predator's instinct. Just like humans would always be hungry when they saw delicious food. What is your name? Taking Dustless to a table with few people, Yoshimura Gyozen immediately asked, What do you want to drink? Bring the best and most expensive one. Dustless put on a look of, I am very rich, and signaled Yoshimura Gyozen to bring all the good things. Kaneki, look, this guy is a nouveau riche. The two students on the other side, seeing Dustless's appearance, immediately complained. Lower your voice. Don't be heard by others. The black-haired boy called Kaneki pulled the blonde boy's clothes. Maybe we will be banned from entering in the future. These two people were Kaneki Ken and his good friend Yongjin Hideyoshi. There are really a lot of delicious food. At the same time, a woman with purple curly hair quietly entered the coffee shop. This person had glasses, a delicate and mature appearance, and revealed a faint charm. It was just that such a beautiful girl was almost the same as the previous ghouls. Looking at the human's eyes, inadvertently greedy, even more intense than other ghouls. But perhaps because of her superior strength, this person could perfectly suppress the hungry wildness of ghouls. Ordinary people could hardly feel any special temperament. 99% of humans may think that this person was a human. However, since it was 99%, it meant that some people could still see it, such as Dustless. He just looked at her rather bored, and then drank coffee by himself. It's really good. The mellow taste lingered in the mouth for a long time. Dustless's eyes suddenly brightened. Thank you for your compliment. Please enjoy. Yoshimura Kozen nodded, then turned and left. At the same time, he frowned and glanced at the purple beauty who came to Dustless. Then he was silent again, his eyes were fluctuating, and no one knew what he was thinking. This handsome guy. Do you mind if I sit here? The purple girl showed an enchanting smile and looked sincere. However, Dustless's one sentence made her almost go berserk. Komashiro rise? I mind eating at the same table with you. I am a clean freak. You can sit elsewhere. I am allergic to women with strong taste. Dustless looked disgusted, and very impolitely asked her to leave. You! Hearing this, Komashiro Rise's eyes trembled and looked at Dustless. This was the first time that she took the initiative to talk to someone and was rejected. Especially Dustless's reason made her particularly angry. What do you mean by you are a clean freak? Dustless's words didn't mean that she was dirty. Chapter 2004. How dare you? Komashiro Reese smiled, and she was almost unable to breathe because of Dustless's words. Damn guy! Looking around, Komashiro Reese found that all the ghouls' eyes had changed. They were whispering to each other, and the corners of their mouths had a slight arc. They wanted to laugh but did not dare to laugh. The 20th district was originally a relatively stable area, but since the appearance of Komashiro Reese, this short piece was destroyed. She had a tail number of gluttony. For the general ghouls, they only needed a human body for about a month, but the amount of food needed by Kamishiro Reese was several times more than other ghouls in a month, and this was only the amount of food for a week. Therefore, Kamishiro Reese's behavior also attracted the attention of CCG. Let's just kill this kid here. Kamishiro Reese's eyes were green, staring at Dustless, who was calmly drinking coffee. Her gem-like eyes were all replaced by hostility. Anyway, there were only a few humans in the coffee shop, and most of them were ghouls. Miss, the gentleman just left. Do you mind sitting here? At this time, the store manager, Yoshimura Gyozen, suddenly interrupted, pointing to the empty table in the corner, and said kindly, "Today, all your expenses are free of charge." Humph. Hearing this, Kamishiro Reese just snorted heavily, and immediately left with a cold face. She had already remembered Dustless in her heart. This arrogant little devil was simply looking for death. I will teach you a lesson tonight. Kaneshiro Rise glanced at Wu Chen unwillingly. She could only angrily sit at the position designated by the store manager and drink her coffee alone unhappily. Since Yoshimura Gyozen intervened, it meant that he did not agree with Kamishiro Reese to fight here. It was not that he sympathized with Dustless, but this coffee shop was the only shelter for ghouls to communicate. Kamishiro Reese's killing here will inevitably be exposed, and so many years of effort will inevitably be wasted. This young lady... Suddenly, Kaneki Ken came over with embarrassment. His cheeks were slightly red, and he was very shy. What's up? After being attacked by Dustless, Kaneshiro Rise did not give Kaneki Ken a good look. I'm in a bad mood. Kid, please don't bother me. Hearing this, Kaneki Ken stammered for a long time without saying anything. He lowered his head in shame and was extremely embarrassed. This idiot, isn't he courting death by striking up a conversation with someone in a fit of anger? Dustless couldn't help but be speechless when he saw this scene. Kaneki Ken, this kid, is unbelievably naive and doesn't know how to deal with people at all. In the original work, Kaneki Ken was in love, so he went to hook up with Kamishiro Rise. As a result, it was a tragedy. After a series of changes, he became a ghoul, and his fate was extremely twisted. Plop. At this moment, a few burly men broke in and kicked the door to pieces. Seeing the burly men who barged into the coffee shop, the customers who were drinking coffee with their heads lowered all frowned. After carefully looking at these people, everyone's expression changed greatly. These people were all wearing uniforms and holding briefcases, and they surrounded Dustless fiercely. White pigeons. Some ghouls who were drinking coffee had tight cheeks, showing caution and fear. White pigeons and ghouls were two natural enemies. Store manager. The beautiful blue-haired girl's face was slightly cold, and her fists were clenched. Toka, don't act rashly. Reaching out and pulling the girl's right arm, the store manager Yoshimura Kozen said calmly, "This group of white pigeons is not coming for us. That guy may have caused a lot of trouble. We don't need to intervene in the infighting between humans." Ha 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 ha, there is a good show to watch. Kaneshiro Rise grinned when she saw the situation. She just sighed in her heart. It's a pity that the delicious food will become a ghost under the hands of white pigeons. What's up? I don't know you. Dustless also looked at these people with a tangled face. He just killed a few policemen yesterday, and that group of people didn't listen to his explanation first. They took the initiative to shoot at Dustless. They deserved to die. Now, please come with me and cooperate with the investigation. The leader looked unkind. Perhaps it was not because of the large number of people. He had already made a move. When he heard the words, Dustless just glanced at the group of CCG faintly, and immediately tasted the coffee. After finding that the taste was a bit bitter, he took a spoonful of sugar. It tastes good. After taking a sip, Dustless smiled and nodded, completely ignoring the white pigeons that surrounded him. Bastard! When he heard the words, the leader of the white pigeons suddenly became angry, and sneered in his heart. We are here to ask you to cooperate with the investigation. You dare to ignore us and drink coffee alone. Where did you get the courage to be so reckless? Boy, didn't you hear me clearly? The leader of the white pigeons said with a little anger. You! Dustless finally turned his head and glanced at the group of white pigeons, and asked uninterestedly. Really, have you seen a person communicate with a group of ants? Both sides are not in the same field. Aren't you asking for trouble by talking nonsense? Arrest him. The leader of the white pigeons, who couldn't stand it anymore, waved his hand, and the men around him rushed over. "You're asking for death." When he saw the situation, Dustless's face became angry, and a golden sword suddenly appeared in his hand, and he swung it. Pucci! 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 The divine sword that could cut iron like mud was unstoppable, and it killed everyone in an instant. In less than 5 seconds, several people were killed instantly, and their bodies were all horribly dismembered, and the smell of blood was pungent. This is bad. When he saw the situation, the shop owner Yoshimura Karma was so depressed that he almost vomited blood. The white pigeons died in his coffee shop. How could he stay out of it? Whether it had anything to do with him or not, he would be implicated because of it. Chapter 2005. This scene was too shocking. It only took a few seconds to kill the white dove. Although it was a short time of a few seconds, it was difficult for the insiders to see the knack. This fellow is an out-and-out bloody butcher. When he kills someone, he won't be affected at all. His expression won't change, and he won't feel any discomfort. When that murderous aura is released, the person is already dead. The store manager was calm on the surface, but he was shocked in his heart. Dustless's calmness in killing people was beyond his reach. The moment the murderous aura appeared, people were already dead. He could hardly see the process of killing people. It was too fast. Goodbye. Thank you for your hospitality. Suddenly standing up, Dustless left a large piece of gold and retreated. The style of the local tyrant was undoubtedly revealed. He had the ability of Gate of Babylon, and the gold was inexhaustible. Cough, cough, cough. Seeing this, the store manager Yoshimura Kozen's face was slightly stagnant. The white dove of CCG died here. His antique coffee shop certainly could not stay out of it. It would inevitably be involved. It was necessary to cooperate with the investigation. In case those people whose nose was sharper than dogs found out the reason, the final loss would be heavy. However, Yoshimura Kozen had no way to stop Dustless, unless he fought with him and captured him. Anything else? Turning his head and glancing at Yoshimura Kozen, Dustless said indifferently. The coffee is good, it's really surprising. If I have time in the future, I will visit this shop again. Thank you, our shop is grateful. Looking at the back of Dustless, Yoshimura Kozen finally smiled and watched Dustless leave. Store manager, how long will you let him leave like this? This guy killed the white dove in our place. It will bring unnecessary trouble to our coffee shop. Kirishima Tuka saw the store manager standing still and couldn't help but worry. And this guy is really strange. He is a ghoul, but he doesn't have that kind of unique aura. He is definitely a human, but is there such a powerful human? He can kill the white dove at will. Is this something a human can do? Humans are so powerful. Their ghouls have long been eliminated. Dong Xiang, this guy might have already recognized us. The store manager's words were amazing and wise. At the moment when he opened his eyes, his scarlet eyes were filled with surprise, and he explained. The surprise, he said, I am afraid he is very surprised that ghouls can make such a different coffee. What? Kirishima Tuka was shocked when she heard this, and immediately said in disbelief, but we haven't been exposed. Are you trying to say that you didn't expose your identity? That's enough. For some experts, just a few subtle movements are enough to figure out their identities. Yoshimura Gyozen said faintly, but he was not worried or afraid. Store manager, you don't seem to be afraid of him snitching. Kirishima Tuka was quite surprised by the store manager's calmness. In the past, when this kind of thing happened, he would kill decisively. Scared? There was no need for that. He himself is the enemy of the white dove. He can't even protect himself. If he snitches, he will definitely be caught. Our top priority should be how to deal with the white dove, who died here, instead of worrying about what the guy will do in the end. Time flies, and a day passed in a blink of an eye. The sky was quickly occupied by the night, and the cold darkness shrouded the entire 20th district. Ayo. In some alleys, the piercing howls of wolves were heard, which made people shudder. Really, you have been following me for a few hours. There is no one here. Should you come out? Miss Konoshiro rise. Your patience is really admirable. Somewhere in an empty, inaccessible area, it was dark all around and filled with endless coldness. They could only see the vague figures with the help of the dirty street lights. Ta-ta-ta. In the stinky alley on the left, there was the sound of high-heeled shoes twisting. Yo. Your agility is really something to be proud of. It's superhuman. A lazy and enchanting voice gradually followed the footsteps, and then Kaneshiro Rise quietly walked out with a face full of desire. Her eyes had already turned into terrifying Herculean eyes, and she was still drooling. She looked at Dustless with a greedy face. This place belonged to the dead zone where people were absent-minded. There was no need to continue pretending. Do you think I am the prey you are talking about? Glancing at Kaneshiro Rise, Dustless shook his head. Why are you so stupid to walk into the trap? Are both species so crazy for food? You know that you are going to die, but you are still persevering. How stupid. Humph. Do you think the white dove has become lawless after killing a few minions? You are just a human, but you are so arrogant. Kaneshiro Rise's face was cold. Ka. A large number of strange red tails suddenly swept out from behind her. They were very thick, and they were Kaneshiro Rise's Kagun. Go to hell. Immediately afterward, Kaneshiro Rise's cheeks were cold, and the dense Kagun was like a cannonball. When ghouls throw away their disguise, their greedy and ugly cheeks are exposed, especially in the face of humans. This face is really disgusting. Dustless glanced at the crazy Kaneshiro Rise, and an unparalleled attack suddenly came. Someone wanted to kill him, and it would be an idiot to be merciful. Amaterasu. He blinked his eyes slightly, and the thick Kagun instantly burned with black flames. What is this thing? At the moment of contact with the black flame, Kaneshiro Rise's face suddenly changed. She saw the black flame of destruction spread wildly at an extremely fast speed, and it was about to swallow her body. Chapter 2006. Urgent notice. The 2005 chapter was uploaded as an abandoned chapter. The author went out to do something, so he didn't have time to read it. Sorry, it has been modified. Everyone can read it again. Sorry. Black flame, what is this? Kunk. Weren't those things kept in the box? And this kind of kunk has never been heard of before. Seeing that her body was about to be devoured, Kaneshiro Rise panicked. Her expression turned cold as she did something that stunned everyone. Pucci. In order to avoid being swallowed and annihilated by Amaterasu, Kaneshiro Rise even abandoned her Kagun. Your strength is not good, but this decisiveness is admirable. Dustless nodded. It was rare to praise this gluttonous woman. If she did not sacrifice her Kagun, Kaneshiro Rise would also be swallowed. Your compliment makes me unhappy, but it makes me angrier. Hearing Dustless's praise, Kaneshiro Rise only became more and more gloomy, and then the broken Kagun erupted again. The new Kagun swayed strangely, like a dangerous giant python. This regeneration ability is quite fast. Dustless was quite surprised. He had heard that ghouls could regenerate, but now it was the first time to see it. It was quite interesting. Kaneshiro Rise, come on. Whoosh! Kaneshiro Rise was an SS-class ghoul. How could she tolerate this kind of provocation? She suddenly roared, and there was a flash of blood in the void, and then Kaneshiro Rise disappeared. Give me your body, young man. Almost instantly, Kaneshiro Rise rushed to the back of Dustless. The speed was like thunder walking in a straight line. It was extremely shocking, and the big mouth with sharp teeth that exuded the smell of blood. In a flash, she bit Dustless's neck. Thank you for your hospitality. With a sneer, Kaneshiro Rise couldn't wait to bite down. Kakaka? Suddenly a strange cracking sound was heard. Kanzaki Rishi was in so much pain that her expression changed drastically. She suddenly realized that her teeth were broken and turned into powder. What kind of joke is this? Is this guy's skin made of steel? No, it's made of diamond. Kaneshiro Rise wanted to cry but no tears came out. Her fangs could not pierce Dustless's skin at all. The fragrant food was right in front of him, but it was as if his mouth had been sealed and he couldn't eat. He could only forcibly endure the tempting fragrance. How could this not be miserable? This is not a diamond, it's just armament hockey. Dustless turned his head slightly to look at Kamashiro rise, and a powerful energy fluctuation burst out from his body. Shinra Tensei! Bang! Being so close to Dustless, Kamashiro rise was naturally unable to avoid the impact of the repulsive force and was instantly sent flying. Ka! Kamashiro rise's body smashed the wall, and her internal organs were shaken. This kind of injury was not so fatal to her, but Kamashiro rise's self-confidence was hit hard. She was an SS-class ghoul, but she couldn't even deal with a human without kunk. Although this human was evil, this was not an excuse. Oh! A sharp roar came out from Kamashiro rise's mouth, and the atmosphere around was even more gloomy and strange. Are you angry from embarrassment? Seeing the red eyes, Dustless's body was full of light and disappeared in an instant. Where is he? The crazy cheeks suddenly solidified. Kamashiro rise looked around and didn't see Dustless's shadow for a long time. Of course, behind you. Suddenly there was a joking voice behind her. Kamashiro rise just turned her head, but what she got back was a big foot. Boom! Her abdomen was hit hard. Kamashiro rise stepped back again and again. Her whole stomach was sunken, and even the human flesh that she had eaten before was almost vomited out. You smelly man with a black heart. You even hit a woman. Kamashiro rise knelt on one knee, her face was ugly. Dustless's kick had a big impact on her. Her whole body was trembling and could not continue to move. Woman? It should be a female ghoul. Glancing at Kamashiro rise with disdain, Dustless sneered. A female ghoul who tried to eat me. It is already a great mercy that I didn't cut her into pieces. Kamashiro rise, you have to know how to be grateful, instead of looking at me with this expression of gritting teeth. You bastard! Hearing this, Kamashiro rise was furious. The Kagun behind her flashed a dangerous red light again, turning into countless thrilling fatal attacks, like a poisonous dragon breaking out of the cage, madly rushing to Dustless. Only Kagun. This attack method is too monotonous. No wonder it was suppressed by CCG's White Dove. If it were me, you ghouls would have already been destroyed by the race. Dustless shook his head disapprovingly. In fact, ghouls did not have much advantage. The most dangerous thing of ghouls was their Kagun, but as long as their Kagun was destroyed, they could no longer use their Kagun as a weapon. Kamashiro rise, let me show you something interesting. There was a deep smirk at the corner of his mouth. Dustless's eyes turned into the scarlet eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, and the pentagram pattern was suffocating. Don't you like to eat people? I will be a good person this time, and let you eat enough. Tsukuyami. For any living being, Genjutsu is fatal. Especially for those who don't understand the power of the Sharingan, their resistance is even less. Almost in an instant, Kamashiro rise was hit by Genjutsu with a blank face. Then she crawled on the ground and shivered. It looked like she had experienced a huge disaster, and her pretty face kept sweating. Chapter 2007. Although she was aware of the danger of the scarlet eyes, Kanashiro rise still looked at Dustless blankly. Her face was dull and confused, and she looked at Dustless with vigilance. But when the word, Tsukuyami, fell, everything changed. Plop! Looking at Dustless's eyes, those two simple words contained terrible magic power. Kanashiro rise fell to the ground in an instant, her body kept trembling, and cold sweat secreted from her pores like rain. Vomit! Kanashiro rise's throat kept vomiting, and she felt extremely uncomfortable. Everything in the world of Tsukuyami was controlled by Dustless, and this time was as long as 24 hours. He could change everything in the world at will. He was the god of creation. Why do you show such a painful expression, Kanashiro rise? Dustless looked at Kanashiro rise with great confusion. He stared at Kanashiro rise, who had saliva on the corner of her mouth, and asked with a smile, "How is your appetite? After eating humans for 24 hours, the taste must be very good." You bastard! Kanashiro rise looked up at Dustless with difficulty and said with indignation, "You better be careful, you better kill me now, or I will definitely kill you." Although in the real world, only a simple second had passed, because of the control of Tsukuyami, Kanashiro rise had spent a long 24 hours in the spiritual world. And in these 24 hours, Kanashiro rise had been eating human corpses non-stop. For the first time in her life, Kanashiro rise felt nauseous to human flesh. Eating a kind of food without limit for 24 hours without stopping, even ghouls would feel nauseous to human corpses. Really, do you want to die? Then I will do as you wish. Dustless's face gradually turned cold. For a woman who wanted to kill him, if he continued to let her live, wouldn't he be looking for death? Although Kaneshiro Rise's strength had little impact on him, it was extremely stupid to leave a pest that could attack him. When it was time to kill, he must kill without mercy. Heaven Gathering Cloud Sword. The Glint Fruit's ability was activated, and a divine sword that could cut through iron like mud suddenly appeared in his hand. The sword emitted a scorching light, and even from a few meters away, Kaneshiro Rise could feel the aura of death. This battle is too simple and boring. Am I really an SS-class ghoul? For the first time, Kaneshiro Rise questioned her own level. She did not think that she was an SS-class ghoul. Instead, she was cleaned up by Dustless. Wait, I have something to ask you. Seeing Dustless gradually approaching, Kaneshiro Rise looked up at the dead eyes and asked, "Are you a ghoul or a human? Whose side are you on?" "I'm not from either side." Faintly glancing at Kaneshiro Rise, Dustless said indifferently, "If I have to find a position for myself, then ghouls and Sis's white dove are more suitable to tremble under my feet. Both sides are not good things. I am neither a mutant nor a human." By the way, did you just say that I am a superhuman? I now feel that this name is quite appropriate. CCG's white dove wanted to kill him. Dustless naturally did not have a good impression. Ghouls also wanted to eat him. These two groups were serious enemies, and it was more appropriate to destroy them all. Goodbye. The sharp edge of the Heaven Gathering Cloud sword fell on the head of Kaneshiro Rise. When it was about to cut her throat, a sudden change occurred. It's really surprising. I didn't expect that there is such a powerful person in the 20th district. It's really interesting, Kakaka? A sound of astonishment and shock suddenly rang out. At the same time, it was accompanied by a crisp, ka-ka-ka sound, as if someone had broken a bone. It was terrifying and horrifying. It's him. Kaneshiro Rise glanced at the figure in the dock and sneered. Are you looking for death? I am not his opponent. You are an S-class scum. Are you confident? Jason, hurry up and run for your life. Jason? Wu Chen also mentioned the name of the strong man in a suit with his hands in his pockets. He snorted coldly and said, "If you kneel down and kowtow to me to apologize now, I can pretend that nothing happened and let you leave safely. Otherwise, I heard that you have a tendency to abuse others. This is very good. Have you ever been killed by 1,000 cuts?" Dustless spat out cold air, and his face was filled with endless coldness. "Although I don't know where you came from, and I don't know whether you belong to a human or a ghoul, but I advise. Hey!" Without waiting for Jason's voice to fall, Dustless seemed to be integrated with the sky and disappeared without a trace. Where did that brat go? Jason saw such a scene and couldn't help but be stunned. He disappeared just like that. Did he need to be so abnormal? It's bad. This time I may really kick an iron plate. Jason's back was cold. Taking away Kaneshiro Rise was one of the tasks given to him by the organization. Of course, he couldn't just watch Kaneshiro Rise fall. Poochie! Suddenly he felt a pain in his arm. Jason turned his head to look. His right arm was already bloody, and it was cut off from the shoulder. Jason, how do you feel? Next time it may be your head. Dustless, standing next to him, regardless of the stunned Jason, asked softly. You, an SS-class ghoul, are not my opponent. You, an S-class ghoul, came out to make a fool of yourself. Is it really appropriate? Are all the members of Aojirai Tree like this? You bastard! His means were cut off by Dustless. Jason was furious. If he continued to be silent, he would inevitably lose face in the future. His back suddenly erupted a large number of dense cocoon, wrapped around the only remaining arm, and did not hesitate to enter the half-cocoon state. Chapter 2008. Tesese, it looks really scary. Staring at the ferocious face of Jason, Dustless deliberately put fear on his face, but the teasing tone was obviously deliberately teasing Jason. Go to hell! Jason's face was extremely distorted, and his eyeballs protruded outward, as if they could burst out at any time, and his arm wrapped with cocoon came full force. Armament hockey hardening. Dustless did not hide, and his dark skin instantly covered his whole body. Boom! A heavy punch fell on Dustless's cheek, and the ferocious Kagun was like a fangs, like an invisible big mouth, which could easily tear people's heads. Ka-ka-ka! However, when Jason's fist hit Dustless with full force, the latter was not hurt at all, but Jason couldn't stand the vibration from the movement of his arm, and his body was bounced back again and again. Even the strong Kagun was cracked because Dustless's skin was too hard, and it was messy like a spider web. Fuck! Seeing Dustless was hit by his full force, but his face was intact, Jason couldn't help but burst out swearing, and he couldn't help but yell in his heart. Who the hell is this guy? The gap is too big. Is he an SSS class ghoul? Even if he is an SSS class ghoul, he won't be fine. Jason sadly found that even if Dustless stood there and let him hit him, it seemed that he had no ability to hurt him. Right? In his eyes, a bright light suddenly flashed, and suddenly a plan came to his mind. Jason asked with a sincere tone, "Are you willing to join our Aijai Tree organization? With your strength, if you catch Komashiro Rise, it will be a great achievement, and I am afraid you will become a high-level member of the organization." Is that all you want to say? Dustless glanced at Jason disappointedly and said sarcastically, "I am not interested in your organization. Of course, if your boss is willing to give up the boss position under her, but I can reluctantly consider it." You bastard, no matter how arrogant you are, you should know when to stop. Hearing this, Jason was so angry that his nose was almost crooked. The Kagun on his back increased its output, and the thick blood-red Kagun kept getting thicker, and its strength seemed to be increasing. "You're quite capable." He stared at Jason in astonishment. It was not difficult to see that this fellow's strength seemed to have room for improvement. "Bring it on." Yawning lazily, Dustless's face was filled with disdain and annoyance. He purposely provoked Jason. The angrier a person was, the stronger he would be. "Since you want to die so much, I'll fulfill your wish." The strong Kagun wrapped around Jason's entire arm, and his entire wrist became thicker. His tightly clenched fist was filled with explosive power. "Go!" Jason glared at Dustless with his fists raised high. Just as he was about to rush over, he suddenly turned around and ran away at the fastest speed he had ever run in his life, disappearing from Dustless's sight. Is this running for your life? After being in a daze for a while, Dustless only scolded until Jason disappeared without a trace. This cunning bug, he pretended to perish together with me, but in fact, he planned to run away. How clever. Ha ha ha, you just wait to be retaliated. Kaneshiro Rise was also stunned for a long time, and immediately noticed that she could not feel Jason's breath at all. Then she smiled. The next person who will retaliate against you may be their boss. Just wait for your death. Do you mean the boss of Aijai Tree? Hearing this, Dustless showed an unusual look of expectation. It seems to be the one-eyed king? The SSS class ghoul, if she comes in person, isn't this more interesting? She will just walk into the trap like you. Don't tell me you're saying. Kaneshiro Rise stared at Dustless, and there was a very terrible idea deep in her heart. She asked, "You deliberately let Jason go, right? You madman just want to attract the attention of the one-eyed king. Let them take the initiative to come to die, and kill them all. Do you want to fight against an organization alone? Who knows?" Dustless shrugged, and a meaningful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and then he suddenly turned and left. Don't you plan to kill me? Seeing Dustless suddenly leave, Kaneshiro Rise, who was stunned, asked, "I said I will retaliate against you." Hearing this, Dustless just turned his head and looked at her faintly, and then he immediately pointed to the sky with no expression, and then he lazily left again. What does this guy want to say? Seeing this, Kaneshiro Rise frowned, and at the same time, she subconsciously looked at the sky and saw a large number of falling steel pipes, and her pupils suddenly shrank and solidified. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A large number of steel pipes fell from the sky, and Kaneshiro Rise, who could not move her body, became a live target. Boom boom boom. A group of steel pipes all hit Kaneshiro Rise. If it was a normal situation, Kaneshiro Rise would naturally not care. The skin of the ghouls was extremely hard, and ordinary weapons could not hurt her at all, not to mention that Kaneshiro Rise was a top predator, SS class ghoul. But now it was different. She was tortured by Dustless's Tsukuyami, and her body was seriously exhausted. Which bastard dares to plot against me? Leaving such a sentence, Konoshiro Rise fainted. Jana Takahiro and Koto Fuku. Not far away, looking at Konoshiro Rise who was fainted, Dustless looked up at the building dozens of meters high. A man wearing a white coat and looking kind and friendly was clearly visible. And of course, his experimental assistant Koto Fuku. What should happen is still unavoidable. Through the powerful insight ability of Sharingan, Dustless also found the fainted black-haired boy, and he was unexpectedly familiar with Kaneki Ken. Chapter 2009. Some people are born with bad luck. Seeing the sad Kaneki Ken, Dustless was speechless. It could only be said that Kaneki Ken's life was too tragic. Even if the current thing had nothing to do with him, he was still unfortunately involved in it. It looks like the original work, Kaneki Ken is still going to be transformed into a ghoul. Occasionally seeing the bloody hole in Kaneki Ken's abdomen, Dustless estimated that even if Kaneki Ken was not attacked by Konoshiro Rise, he still encountered some bad luck. Maybe he was stared at by other ghouls in the antique coffee shop and was finally rescued by Jana Mingbo. Forget it, it has nothing to do with me anyway. Taking a deep look at Jana Mingbo, Dustless turned and left. He was not interested in the transformation of ghouls, whether it was one-eyed or other types of ghouls, Dustless was not interested in them. But if this old man was looking for trouble, then don't blame Dustless for being ruthless. As for the strength of the old man, Urfu was unimaginably strong. In the future, he used overwhelming strength to hit the one-eyed king, but it did not have any effect on Dustless. Who the hell is that guy? On the top of the building, Jana Mingbo held a camera in his hand, and the scene that came into his eyes was how Dustless crushed Konoshiro Rise. He directly used overwhelming strength to hit Konoshiro Rise, who was an SS-class ghoul. The two sides were completely different players in the same field. It was as simple as a giant bullying a baby. Where did this creature come from? It's so strange. Jana Mingbo was puzzled. If Dustless was a ghoul, he did not have the Kagun eyes that belonged to ghouls, and he did not even have the Kagun. He was almost no different from humans. But since when did humans become so powerful? He even crushed SS-class ghouls with bare hands. As a result, what's the use of White Dove? I really want to dissect his body. Seeing Dustless disappearing in the night sky, Jana Mingbo finally sighed. He just thought about this kind of thing. He was far from being able to do that. But it's good to give this video to CCG. Garner Mingbo smiled eerily. Dustless did not wear a mask like the other ghouls. It had to be said that he was extremely bold. Even the extremely powerful SSS-level ghouls, such as the store manager Yoshimura Karma and the One-Eyed King, did not dare to see people with their real faces. In this respect, Dustless was definitely the most bold. Time flew by like a white steed flitting by a crack. In the blink of an eye, a few days had passed. CCG's base camp. In the spacious and bright meeting room, a large number of people with suitcases gathered. The scene was extremely serious, and everyone's expression was unprecedentedly serious. Special ghouls like Arima Kisho, Shinohara Yukinori, and Maruditsuki all attended this meeting with great respect. And the one who was responsible for presiding over this meeting was CCG's boss, Washu Matsuri. Everyone, you have seen the video just now. What do you think of this bold guy? As the director, Washu Matsuri's face was heavy, his eyes flickered, and he was brewing anger. He actually crushed the Big Stomach King. The strength of this guy is not simple. Maruditsuki, one of the special investigators, looked at Dustless on the screen, and his old face was strange. But, what is this guy, a ghoul or a human? When Maruditsuki's words fell, it caused many ghouls investigators to resonate. For a while, the whole scene was noisy. Everyone was confused about the existence of Dustless. It was said that he was a ghoul, but there was no Kagun and Kagun. It was said that he was a human, but he did not need Kunk to crush SS-class ghoul Konoshiro Rise. This kind of existence was really puzzling. It was no wonder that Jana Mingbo couldn't wait to dissect Dustless. Quiet! Seeing the scene was noisy, Washu Matsuri, as the director, said very seriously with a straight face. No matter what, this guy attacked the police and killed our CCG members. It is enough to see that this mysterious person has a great hostile attitude to us. Basically, we can judge that he is an enemy. So, I now decide to identify this person. as an SSS class ghoul and treat him carefully. Pointing to Dustless on the screen, Washu Matsuri said very coldly, even his danger level is more terrible than the SSS class ghoul. What? Treat him as an SSS class ghoul. After the scene was sluggish for a few seconds, the entire meeting suddenly exploded. So far, the SSS class ghouls that appeared were rare, and the unkillable owl who had disappeared for many years was one of them. A few years ago, he was seriously injured by a Rima Kisho, and his arms were cut off. Since then, few people had seen his trace. Quiet! Seeing that the younger brothers were talking again, the director and Washu Matsuri had to raise their voice. In this case, isn't it a bit hasty? This guy's origin is unknown. Although he killed our people, no matter how you look at it, he doesn't seem to be a ghoul. Rashly identifying him as an enemy is not worth the loss. The special investigator Kurapan Yen frowned and said. In his view, it was too rash to identify Dustless as an enemy in a hurry. It was equivalent to having a powerful enemy. Moreover, Dustless was not impossible to win over. Anyway, the other party was not like a ghoul, and there was no sign of eating people. Although Dustless killed a lot of white pigeons, he also seriously injured the S-class ghoul Jason and the SS-class ghoul Kamishiro Rise. At least, the current Dustless was at least neutral, and he did not help anyone. Arima Kisho always remained silent and did not join the debate like everyone else. His knuckles tapped on the table rhythmically as if he was thinking about something. This matter, I have reported it to the higher-ups. They decided to treat this guy as an SSS class ghoul. Washu Matsuri made the final decision, and his tone was unquestionable, which was the opposite of his usual gentle tone. Chapter 2010. If Dustless knew that CCG had a plan against him at this moment, he would definitely sneer at them. Not to mention other people, just the director who called Dustless as an SSS class ghoul, Washu Matsuri, was actually a ghoul. As the director of CCG, Washu Matsuri was a ghoul. How strong can this group be? Moreover, the identity of Washu Matsuri was quite mysterious, and it had a lot to do with some large organizations. Arima, what do you think? Washu Matsuri had to look at Arima Kisho, hoping to win his support. Other CCG members did not seem to agree with his approach. Thinking about it, it was right to set up a strong enemy. If this person was really a ghoul, it would be fine, but Dustless was clearly a human being. Although it was very suspicious, wasn't it a typical behavior to identify him as a ghoul? Even if he is not a ghoul, but Arima Kisho was worthy of being Washu Matsuri's good friend, or the two of them were the same kind, and Arima Kisho himself also had the blood of ghouls. He clearly knows that the person we sent is CCG, but he still dares to attack openly. It is not wrong to identify him as an enemy. I don't think there is anything wrong with it. On the contrary, we must implement a plan against him. This kind of comprehensive strength is not weaker than the SSS class ghoul. We must not ignore him. Arima Kisho expressed his position. Apparently he agreed with Washu Matsuri's position. Hey, a group of special investigators could only sigh. Washu Matsuri was the director of CCG, and Arima Kisho was known as the undefeated ghoul investigator. Both of them determined to treat Dustless as an SSS class ghoul, so other people's opinions were not important. Investigate, you must find out the identity of that kid for me. He didn't even wear a mask, he dared to come out and provoke us openly. I admire his courage and courage. Time flies. 5 days passed in a blink of an eye. Failed. In the stronghold of the Ayajai Rai Tree organization in the 24th district, a huge ferocious monster looked down at Jason in front of it, and its hoarse tone was chilling. Its appearance was neither fish nor fowl, and its specific appearance could not be distinguished. Its entire body was made of hard bones, and the most striking thing was that it had a single blood-red eye on its face. Yes! Jason looked at the monster with fear. It was indeed the boss of the Ayajai Rai Tree, the Cyclops King. Is the guy you mentioned very strong? The one-eyed king looked down at Jason. She was not angry. She had the absolute right to speak in the Ayajai Rai Tree. Her strength was not covered, and the identity of the SSS class ghoul was not bragging. Not bad. Jason felt an immense pressure that he had never felt before. He quickly nodded. Everyone knew how cruel and ruthless this super boss was. No wonder. No wonder, CCG gave him such a high evaluation, even more than me. The one-eyed king suddenly understood. At this moment, she appeared in the form of Kakuja, and no one could recognize who she was. CCG. Jason looked at the one-eyed king strangely. To be honest, if he was not smart, he might have been killed by Dustless. The guy who fought with you has been determined to be an SSS class ghoul. I am suddenly interested in him. Since he can be determined to be an SSS class ghoul, and the director and Shuji Matsuri personally confirmed it, this guy is very unique. The scarlet eye on the one-eyed king's face was jumping, and it was filled with raging red light. It's a mistake. In a narrow alley, Dustless leaned against the wall and was worried. He glanced at the side, there were corpses everywhere, and kunk scattered on the ground. They were all killed by Dustless. These past few days, no matter where Dustless stayed, there would be groups of white pigeons looking for trouble, so he had no choice but to start a massacre. Hundreds of people had died under Dustless's saber, and the number was still increasing. Really, if I continue to kill them like this, your CCG will be extinct sooner or later. Glancing at the corpses on the ground, Dustless sighed helplessly, and he could not help but regret it. If he had worn a mask to walk, he would not have caused so much trouble. Ayo. At this moment, a disgusting smell suddenly came. It seemed that there were still living people. The vitality of this group of white pigeons is also strong enough. Dustless shook his head, the glinting fruit ability floated, and the sharp edge of the Kusanagi sword flashed again. When he was about to kill them, an unexpected figure suddenly appeared in front of him. Isn't this kid him? Dustless was shocked. He walked over and saw that it was not the CCG that was struggling, but a figure that Dustless did not expect. One of his eyes was jumping with red light, and his whole body was filled with a heart-wrenching madness. At this moment, he was working hard to eat the bodies of the CCG members killed by Dustless. Kaneki Ken. At the moment when he saw the one-eyed figure, Dustless was sure that he was Kaneki Ken. Keske. I didn't expect to meet you in such an occasion. Dustless secretly smacked his tongue. Seeing the crazy face of Kaneki Ken, he knew that this guy had not eaten human flesh for a long time. He was afraid that he was hungry. Dustless killed so many white pigeons. It was estimated that Kaneki Ken was attracted by the tempting smell of human beings. Ayo. Seeing Dustless appear, Kaneki Ken rushed over instinctively, and his speed was quite fast. Get out of my way. Dustless frowned and immediately kicked him. The clumsy Kaneki Ken was not the opponent of Dustless. In an instant, he was kicked back again and again, and there were footprints on his abdomen. You don't know how to live. Sure enough, the group of bastards in CCG are not good things, and ghouls are also the same. Dustless stared at Kaneki Ken coldly. This kid was so insensible, he did not mind beating him up, and then giving him to CCG was a good choice. Chapter 2011. Dustless smiled evilly. CCG would definitely be very interested in Kaneki Ken's kind of acquired Cyclops ghouls. Maybe they would be excited to dissect Kaneki Ken. Ouch! Perhaps because of Dustless's kick, Kaneki Ken was also hurt. The crazy eyes gradually calmed down, and the roar was not as hoarse as before. It's you? Kaneki Ken was stunned, apparently recognizing Dustless who met in the coffee shop. Hey, it's me, you are so brave, do you want to eat me? If I am eaten by you, I have lived for hundreds of years in vain. Staring at Kaneki Ken, whose face was full of bloodstains, Dustless suddenly said, How does it taste? Is human flesh delicious? Human flesh? Hearing this, Kaneki Ken's face suddenly showed fear, and he subconsciously touched the corner of his mouth. Touching the wet bloodstains, Kaneki Ken's whole body seemed to be electrocuted, suddenly twitching slightly, and his pupils suddenly enlarged several times, full of gray emptiness. Don't be so sad, anyway, in my eyes, human beings and ghouls are the same kind of creatures, they are not good things, just jackals of the same tribe. When his voice fell, Dustless slowly forced Kaneki Ken. You are talking nonsense, how can I eat human flesh, I am a human. Kaneki Ken shook his head hard, as if he wanted to shake out everything he had just heard. Naive, I said that it doesn't matter to me whether you are a human or a ghoul. Dustless stared at Kaneki Ken and said, and even if you deny it, it is useless, the instinct in the bones will not lie. Hearing this, Kaneki Ken glared at Dustless, and he judged that Dustless was deliberately attacking him. Ta-ta-ta. At the same time, a very discordant sound of footsteps suddenly came into his ears. Dustless immediately closed his eyes, and his observation hockey quietly spread. Only 2 people? With a slightly cold expression, Dustless temporarily raised the Heaven Cluster Cloud Sword and slowly walked away. As for Kaneki Ken, who had a face of despair, he had already been disregarded. Manager, just leave the task of collecting food to me. The blue-haired girl blinked her watery eyes and looked at the old man in front of her with confidence. Dong Xiang. Hearing this, Yoshimura Gyozen stopped walking. His squinted eyes suddenly opened, revealing a pair of dark red eyes. Recently, too many white pigeons have died. Sooner or later, a special investigator will appear. Who exactly did it? Dong Xiang had a bewildered expression as well, and she was rather hesitant. You too. A silent movement came from behind. Dong Xiang and the store manager, Yoshimura Gyozen, were both shocked. They subconsciously turned their heads, and their pupils constricted. The scarlet eyes flickered with evil afterglow, and the 3 slowly rotating magatama were far darker than the eyes of ghouls, and those who were stared at by them would feel like sitting on pins and needles. It turned out to be Miss Kirishima and manager Yoshimura. Dustless, who came out of the darkness, saw the 2 people holding a large suitcase in their hands. It was estimated that they were collecting food. Immediately, he pointed to the depths of the corridor. There are dozens of bodies there. If you don't mind the trouble, you can take them away. Dozens. Hearing this, both the store manager and Dong Xiang were stunned and asked subconsciously, killing so many people will inevitably attract the attention of the white pigeons. Also, is that your kakuai? Kakuai. Dustless was stunned and realized that he was still in the state of 3 Tomo Sharingan. He immediately said, no. However, you can understand it as kakuai. Such unscrupulous killing will attract the attention of the white pigeons sooner or later. The store manager, Yoshimura Gyozen, calmly persuaded, even if your strength is superior, facing the white pigeons as many as ants, you will be dismembered by them sooner or later. Oh really? Dustless smiled faintly and said calmly, I think the manager said the opposite. No matter how many ants there are, when faced with something as hard as a rock, they won't be able to bite it. They will only seek their own destruction. At the end of his speech, Dustless's lips curled into a devilish smile. Could it be? The store manager, Yoshimura Gyozen, had a bad feeling in his heart. He looked at the place Dustless said and hurried over. As they got closer and closer to the place Dustless pointed out, blood flowed like a river, and the uncomfortable smell of blood became stronger and stronger. Even because the blood concentration was too high, even Yoshimura Kozen and Kirishima Tuka showed discomfort. This is, in the dark abandoned sky, seeing the corpses of the members of White Dove all over the ground, the store manager and Kirishima Tuka were both petrified on the spot, staring at this tragic scene dumbfounded. You killed so many white doves, it will destroy the peace and stability of 20th District. The store manager, Yoshimura Gyozen, frowned and looked at Dustless. His face was unhappy. He had managed to maintain the stability for so many years, and now it was about to be destroyed by Dustless. Naturally, he was unwilling. Peace. Stability? Saying such naive words, manager. I really doubt that you are an SSS class ghoul? Peace, this illusory thing is made by fists. Isn't the peace of human beings based on the pain of ghouls? Dustless sneered at the manager's words and sneered. What's more, this group of bastards even treated me as an SSS class ghoul to be destroyed. I really can't find a reason to let go of the white doves. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If people offend me, I will pay them back 100 times. This was the philosophy of Dustless as an adult. Dustless was not the store manager. For hundreds of years, he had experienced all kinds of bizarre events. These were all unimaginable to the store manager. Peace, this fragile thing, could only be decided by fists. From the time he left the world of Naruto, Dustless understood such a simple truth. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.